And we are live. Welcome, brothers, to another show. We're going to wait till a few of the brothers come into the room. We got my brother Edward Anderson coming on. Let's see if he's there yet. See here. Okay, he's not in yet. But yeah. So the title of the show is Can Brothers Build Black Wall Street in America? So first, do me a favor, brothers. When you come in the room, hit that like button. Let's see what we got here. It's not here. Okay, yeah. But can brothers build Black Wall Street in America? Let's see who we got here. The comment section. My brother Elliot Williams says, absolutely we can. Okay. Now, the reason I'm saying this, I'm asking this question because maybe some of you guys already know. Let me share the screen real quick. Let me go right here. This is my Facebook group, Blackmentravels. You can join the Facebook group whenever you get a chance. And in that Facebook group, it was a post of a story about a town in Toomsboro, Georgia. Here we go, right here. Toomsboro, Georgia, fellas. And it says that the entire town is $1.7 million. Jay Real Estate recently did a story on it, and it says rebuild Black Wall Street. My brother D Bizzle says, yes, if we band together, we can build Black Wall Street. Okay. So on the post, I'm gonna see if I can find this post. It was one brother. Now here we go. My brother Dupree Lattimore says, but not in America. And this is the talking point we have for tonight. Let me bring Edward on to the stream. What's going on, Edward? How you doing, brother?
Not much. It's been a minute. I appreciate you thinking of me. So I'm ready to get this shit on the road. Because it's an interesting topic.
Yeah, man, we gotta talk about it, man. We made a post in the group of Blackmentravels, and for the most part, a lot of brothers concurred that you can build a Black Wall Street. But it was a brother on there who said if we did build a Black Wall Street, first of all, I think he said it was not possible to build a Black Wall Street in America. But then he said if we did, we'd have to have protection of the yin yang politically and military.
Yeah, so and that's true for anything. I mean, I think absolutely it is possible. It's just that we're not framed to doing that in America. And there has to be an overseas so if the kind of question is, can you build a Black Wall Street in America? The answer is yes. If you go about how to do it, I would think there has to be an overseas element, even of building a Black Wall Street in the United States of America. Because part of where our power has to come from is a Black Wall Street has to think about, you're talking about creating industry. You're not talking about just a whole bunch of niggas with businesses. And because it's not just about people that want to be entrepreneurs, it's about getting gainful employment of other Black men. It's about creating an economy or an economic sector, not just having a whole bunch of money or generating income. So to do that, you have to start thinking about different things. You have to start thinking about land. You have to start thinking about incorporating that. You have to start thinking about control of the government. You have to start thinking about guns. You have to start thinking about economic like you got to think of things as a global. What are things that the world needs that Black men can provide at the highbrow and the lowbrow, and then create, a community around that. And that can happen. It's just, do Black men overall have the political will to do so? And so that's the first place I would start as far as this conversation. So
okay, now that's very true what you're saying. But my brother Black Choice say so they can bomb and kill us, saying that it's going to be the same old thing again, like they did last time.
Well, that shit can happen no matter where you are in the world. What do you think happens in Africa? With Boko Haram and shit like that. I'm not like a Captain America person. There is no one size fits all solution. So look at everything and do what's best for you. But so if we're going to talk about, so the question I would have is, I'm a person saying you have to do everything. Everybody ain't going overseas. And I think that even if you were to create a Black Wall Street overseas, then there has to be an element of Black being able to understand that America is your home base. And you can't just completely disconnect with the power base you have in America, even if it's Black. I'm talking about Black people. Everybody who's got money is not going to go overseas. So if you're going to create like $100,000, $200,000 community or 2,000 person community, like in Ghana, hell, even Liberia, but there's a 200,000 community in like Accra and stuff like that, you'd be a fool to not create a pipeline. I'm not talking about building in America. I'm talking about, okay, you decided to create a strong community in another country. You're in that country. Part of your value will be your access to the American economy, your dual citizenship, your access to even Black investors, because you're on the ground, you're there, and you can sell it, and you have people that you need to engage with that are on the ground. Like you talk about the tribal shit, you talk about 50-year leases, because you ain't gonna own shit. Now, as far as dealing with white supremacy in America, that's a different animal. So either way you slice it, you're gonna have to have an element of it working together.
I totally agree with that. I do agree with that. My brother Black Torch says, remember Rosewood and Wilmington, for example.
I live in North Carolina. There's Rosewood, Wilmington. Obviously, the most one was Tulsa, Oklahoma. Funny thing about that, the movie Watchmen, the TV show Watchmen, shout out to Regina King. She did a good job on that. And one of the first episodes, and y'all should check out the clip, it was an episode that chronicled Black Wall Street, because it was a part of the plot of the whole show. It's actually interesting. If you care about that, check out even the first couple of episodes. And basically a whole bunch of white folk Google Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Black Wall Street was like the #1 trending thing for a while that month, because white folks were Googling the riots because they wanted to see if that shit actually happened. Shout out to American educational system.
Okay. My brother Purple Fashion 03 says, if we got a group of dedicated diaspora Africans together and build one in Africa, I guess he says in Africa, pick the best African countries to go to. So I guess he's assuming that we go to Africa and build.
I mean, one thing that we have to understand, I don't like Yvette Carnell or Tone Talks like that. Very few things I agree with them with, but I am a believer of ADOS. Meaning I have no problem working with other Black people from other cultures, but you have to understand there's sometimes where our priorities are going to intersect. There's sometimes where our priorities are not going to intersect. Anybody that doesn't believe that, learn about Liberia and how a different type of African American, these are more mulattoes that went to Liberia, they chose to leave, right? When most Black people chose to stay, them not understanding those differences and not addressing the concerns that tribal people have, even though those motherfuckers were selling us in that country. People forget that too. That is why we don't have this. That's one of the reasons, other than the American government as well, is why we don't have a Liberia, why we don't already have an established country that's probably the size of Maryland that we could go to right now. That was like that up until the 70s, in which it went through a civil war, which basically eliminated any progress that African Americans or descendants of them in that area had built in that country. And that country was like what you see Ghana and stuff like that today. It was known for rubber. So you would already have a Black Wall Street to build up if it wasn't for the issues we had there, as well as the America, mainly the CIA, stowing issues and fucking that up. So that also comes to tell you too, just because you leave American borders, come on, America is an empire. It has influence that touches the world. And even if you're not dealing with the Americas, you still may have to deal with the Chinese and other superpowers. But anyway. Oh, he said, what was the countries? Okay, the countries I would look at is South Africa, Zimbabwe, Ghana, and we're talking about like cities like Accra. I think Nigeria as well, Lagos or Abuja. But Ghana, if I had to pick one, I would say Accra and Ghana, because we already have an established 200,000, 300,000 African Americans there. So, and it's kind of in that sweet spot of it's already kind of developed or on its way, but at the same time, it's in the West. So it's not a whole bunch of Chinese development. They still do look at Western development. and they're kind of coming around to telling the truth about how they sold us into slavery, how they helped in acknowledging that history. So I would say Accra would be number one, if like as a city in Ghana, if I had to pick one location, but there's other potential candidates.
Okay, now we got a lot of brothers in the group that's pretty much saying that, you know, we wouldn't be able to do it without any type of violence. And even though they might not use aerial violence like they did from the first time, what they do now is pretty much will rezone and build a highway, you know, through your city. Basically, they broke up a lot of Black Wall Streets like that.
Yeah, I live in North Carolina. By Duke University, there's a highway that leads up to it, Highway 147. You look on the right side of that street, you see a lot of older Black folks before that street was built. And in the left side is Research Triangle Park, which is now nationally known for its technology and all of that. That's an example of that. So I very much so know what that means. But at the same time, it's harder to do that now because people are a lot more aware. The world is a lot more connected. It's a lot easier. Remember, Black people have won things. The farmers won a lawsuit for being discriminated against recently. North Carolina has gotten the state to won a suit about the eugenics program, which sterilized a lot of Black people here. Black people have to think in a different mindset. We have to get litigious. Guns have to be involved. So here's the thing. I'm not saying we have to get violent, but it has to be known, because these motherfuckers are not going to be able to sneak the military in this bitch or sneak, you know, they're not going to be able to freeze out an entire city and then try to pull some bullshit and then keep that a secret. You know, like shout out to the fucking Black Lightning, which they would talk about how the government came in and basically were able to black out an entire city, social media, everything. So I'm like, even if you killed all these motherfuckers, you're not going to be able to hide that forever. You're not going to be able to hide that in the immediate future. Like, there's no way you can do that. And then you're going to have to kill everybody. And if you kill everybody, you're not going to be able to just say people disappeared. Oh, there was a pandemic, so this one city we had to knock out, because it ain't no cities with all Black people like that. So you're not, you know.
Let me ask you this real quick, Edward.
Yeah.
Do you think what because usually what they're going to do is they're going to send in some Black politicians to kind of disrupt, you know, things, right? They'll put a Black face on white supremacy. We've talked about that plenty of times.
Well, and we're thinking about building whole communities. That can't happen because we would be one of the first initial steps is paying for your politicians. If you're paying for your politicians, you're not just voting for them, they're not presented to you. And even Black people today, we need to start like I'm not alt-right. I'm just saying, one thing I learned from the Tea Party is the Tea Party, regardless if a Republican is running, they run their own candidates. They just run, and in states they do that. This is why in Texas you have like the Constitution Party and stuff like that. They run their own shit. Black people tried to do that with the Black Panthers. It failed because it was dismantled. But you can learn from that and do that again. We just have to be able to brand that differently. But it doesn't matter if it's branded. At the end of the day, if the money flows a certain type of way, it'll be harder for them to do that.
Okay.
All right, my bad. I mean to cut you off.
No, you good. Because I know, man, they have so many ways. Like they put themselves in a position to really put somebody in front of them, right? And you know, maybe if we had like a lot of female Black-owned businesses, it might not be a problem. But the most thing they really worry about is how the way Black men were able to build, literally not even a whole generation after slavery, to be almost the #1 community, richest community in America at that time. They say it was just Oklahoma, but it was one of the richest communities in America right after slavery. And Black men did that. So
that's what Black men had all the skills because we were slaves. That's why unions were created to protect white skills in the lower end. Remember, it's like robots with multiple programs. Yeah. So that's what they were afraid of. But at the same time, when you look at Detroit, was like the fourth largest economic zone in the world at one point. Look at what Black men did with that, which we could have took control of that once white flight kicked in. We don't have a builder's mentality because part of it was whether it was passed down to us. So there's certain things you can't learn it. It has to be internal to who you are, like a religion. This is why Jews tend to be able to deal with money a lot easier. It's not that they're smarter. It's a part of how they come up. It's a part of how they're brought up from year to year to year. You see the same thing with sports and black people, although it's in genetics that have to do with that too. The point is, we're going to have the exercise of how to go about doing it. Which is, I think personally, you should want to do both. I think we should be building a certain way in certain communities and understand a community is a county. That's really where you want to start. It's a county, then there's cities within the county. You want to take control of a county, not just take control of a city. Because if you take control of, really, you want to take control of a state. So when you look at places like in America, like Maryland is a good zone to really look at. Hell, I would even go, and people think I'm crazy for saying this. It is what you look at it. It's true. Mississippi is a good zone, because when you look at the cheaper land, when you look at how fast things can be built up, when you look at the global economy, Mississippi, if you look at the population, it's only like 2 million. It's like 2.9 million in Alabama and like 2.something million. It's not enough of them if black people really want to come down to that. And you turn that to a global hub, that becomes infinitely harder. This is where that foreign investment becomes important, because it becomes harder to fuck shit up, because now you have other people that have other investments in it. And in the original Black Wall Street, a lot of the Jewish people were invested in a lot of our shit. They weren't invested in all of it, but they were. Yeah, the Negro League, quite a few Negro leagues were owned by Jewish teams.
That, man.
Yes,
I seen it was like one white owner that was trying to tell the brothers not to sell out their team.
Part of the issue that black people have with Jews is Jews went to say, I'm going to genetically merge with white folks, and then I'm gonna do what I'm doing on my end. But and because remember, Jewish people were being discriminated against economically too, not to the same extent as us, but they were frozen out of banks. The difference is because they had their culture that goes thousands of years. And obviously the Holocaust, which basically had them hyper aware, they were able to bank within themselves. That's why they're so good at it, because they bank amongst themselves. Black people have never done that because we were never really taught to do it. And obviously slaves, you get it. So anyway.
I want to welcome Elliot Williams into the show. You there, brother?
Hold up. I'm here, brother Aaron. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Hey, man, thank you for letting me come on. I just want to say one thing with the brother. I agree everything with what the brother is saying, but I just want to say this to the people. Is you right, brother? They did bomb us. But guess what? We could build online and they can't bomb that. And what you said, what you said about financial education is right. What you said about financial education, I 100% agree with you, and that's what I'm trying to teach. I'm not on here to promote anything, but I feel like our biggest problem as a people is financial illiteracy. You're right. The Jews do save money. We don't know what to do with money. If I gave a black person 100,000 and told them to flip it, they wouldn't know what to do with it other than going to the streets. So financial and education is what we need. See, the difference between us is them is that they use a system. We don't have systems. We follow everything that they do. I posted the other day on Facebook, what do we as black people go to Asians for? But yet our sisters go to them for nails, hair, all of this type of stuff. We've forgotten how to bring economics back into our own communities, which we don't even have communities because we don't own nothing. So just our neighborhoods, I should say, because to have a community, because we always talk about black communities, but to have a community, you got to own something. We don't own nothing. Nobody owns nothing. You're borrowing a house from a bank. Yeah, you could sell it, but what do you own? See, it's assets over liabilities. That's the difference between whites and blacks. They own the buildings that we walk into. Where we walk into a building, we're comfortable to be in the building, but we don't think about how to own that building. We don't think about, how do I own this car instead of paying 10 years on it, 5 years on it, 30 years on a mortgage? See, that's where it starts, is financial education. They're no better than us. They just use systems. They're just ahead of us in some things that we've forgotten. We invented everything they see, from the light, from the lights, to the little latch that hooks to the car, to the gas mask, you name it, to the design of DC. They're nothing without us. See, the power's in the people. It's never left the people. We just never tapped into that power. That's the thing. Well, see, I sue these people. I sue the bureaus. I sue these crackers. I don't fear them. But see, I educated myself. Nobody taught me that. We don't read nothing. We don't do the basics of what we need to defeat them.
Well, we have a culture problem. That's what it ultimately comes back to. That's really what it is. It's a cultural problem. Go ahead, finish your thought. I ain't even cut you off.
We the only people in this whole entire planet, bro, without military and without artillery. That's a problem, bro. See, we don't think military. We're too damn soft. We're too damn weak. But we walk around like we so hard. But we have no military, no artillery. We keep claiming Africa, and they ain't coming here to bomb shit. You understand? It's going to take us fighting from within. See, this power that we talking about here is an internal thing. It's not always physical. It's a mental thing. They break us down mentally, and we never build ourselves back up mentally. So like I said before when I opened, they could bomb any building they want, bro. We could build in other ways because we invented everything they see. They still in buildings that our ancestors created. We them same descendants. We them same people.
But the thing about it is, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but one of the cultural things that we got to get out of is, and I was a little bit hyped right now because I was eating ice cream, but it's kind of like this kind of hyper, it's got to be in a hyped up state to want to do something. I'm very, like, shout out to Master Teacher One. I was just on his stuff and we were talking about credit, and I was debating, like, they would talk about why you should never use credit. I was talking about credit can be used as a tool if you're educated properly. But at the end of the day, these things can be done. And being, it can't be if folks got to be like in a hyped up state to want to do it.
Real quick, I think what the brother is saying that because we don't have any type of military backing, if we build brick and mortar businesses within the community, that we will be effed with for the most part.
That's an excuse. That's an excuse. And there's levels to military backing. Like, for instance, you have police. First of all, the race riots, the Blackwallstreets were not done by a foreign military. It was done by citizens. So the issue of them is not that they had a military. They didn't even have a militia. They didn't have guns at all, which is what the Black Panthers learned from. But the Black Panthers they kind of did the pendulum wrong in the other side. They showed they really just waved. I'm not against the Black Panthers, but there are lessons to be learned from it. So people can take that with what that is. They basically took a phallus. There was a gun in behind enemy lines and just waved that shit all around rather than having soft power as well as having guns if they had to go to it. And they also got beat by being infiltrated too without guns. The Black Panthers got dismantled without guns. They got dismantled from within with treachery too. So I think if you want to give an example, the Nation of Islam is actually a good example as far as a present. You don't see them waving guns around, but you do see them with their ability to aggregate Black men, their ability to be organized, their ability to show up out of nowhere when they have to. And then people think about that. And if you look at it with other groups that are what I call client races, because that's what we are. And there are other client races in other countries that don't have militaries. That's the way you got to think. You have to be cunning. And that's the biggest thing I see that Black men don't have when it comes to, it's not have, but don't often activate. We don't value being cunning. And then these white folks, they may not be smarter than us, but they are more cunning. They value that more than we do. And you see that in a lot of the cheating and stealing that they do. But at the same time, when we call them out on it, we win too. Shout out to dude with the super soaker. And I always say this: white supremacy exists, but Black complacency allows white supremacy to run a lot more smoothly than it would otherwise run.
Right.
I agree.
Anyway, now
I agree with that.
But I understand what Elliot is saying too. It's Elliot, right, brother?
Yes, it is, Aaron.
Okay. Like,
yeah, I mean, black men should. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just saying that he's saying that right now you got, billion-dollar companies online, and we can basically rebuild, exchanging money through an online economy. That's what you're saying, brother?
I'm saying that, but I'm also saying that we're not properly using credit. Like, for instance, like my company, Zion Equity Group, for example. Most brothers don't even realize if you go to websites like Biz Buy Sell, you got thousands of businesses that are for sale. You can buy an established business. Like the brother talked about us owning our own land. I totally agree with that. So let me drop another jewel for you. Do you realize that we as Black people don't even realize that we can own over 20 acres of land in Montana, and you can also have that land surveyed? Do you realize that in Montana, it houses the second richest mineral in the earth, which is sapphire? It's the second richest stone behind diamonds. You could buy 20 acres of land for under $100K in Montana. So you're talking about building our own communities, separating, and it's also one of the original sovereign states. So if you know anything about straw man, UCC1, you could come under those laws in Montana, and they don't really mess with blacks out there. And you have a lot of you have a high Native American population out there. You can buy land that comes with gold, comes with sapphire. You can drill on your land. We can use the things that the Most High put here, like wind, solar energy. You can use your own turbines. You can use water for energy. We don't have to rely on these electrical companies, but it starts with education. See, the one thing that they infiltrated us on was our mind. That's what they control. They physically can't beat us. That's why they take steroids. That's why they do everything artificial just to compete with us. But mentally, it's no match. But see, like the brother said, they control us, and their thing runs smoother because we're in a complacent state. We're in a stationary state. Look at our women. We got the only women around here walking around knocking their own self in the head because they can't scratch their real hair because they put artificial on top. We'd rather be fake than be real. You understand what I'm saying? So when we get back to being real, who's gonna stop us? Who's gonna mess with us? Nobody. Well, we're the strongest force on this planet. We can't be infiltrated unless it's allowed. But they use Willie Lynch against us. We know that. That's evident. We see it in our own communities. We'll kill each other over drugs and a woman, but we won't kill a cracker coming in our communities, just killing our sisters, killing a brother. We'll just sit back and watch and videotaping and put it on YouTube. Fight back. You know what I'm saying? We don't even have to have military. Learn how to defend yourself. Go into martial arts. Go into self-defense. There's other ways that we can defend ourselves. I mean, it's just we got to start using our mind, though. Go ahead.
And as Black Torch said, like redlining was a federal policy. Not redlining, but it's administered at the local level, though. So what it is, what the federal government did was they just didn't prosecute it.
You still there, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, the brother went out.
Okay,
Thank you again for allowing me to come on, bro. I just had to say something on this one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, bro. Like I said, I agree with you 100%, man. I believe a brother named Man Tomorrow was talking about Montana, so I definitely know what you're talking about.
Man, it's rich. It's really rich. I mean, you could build whatever you want on your land when you own it. Now, I respect what the brother is saying, but bro, we got to get back to education. Like to be honest with you, when I look around, Aaron, and I look at these 16-year-olds and these 17-year-olds, it's gonna start with them. You know what I'm saying? There's no more Malcolms. There's no more Martins. That's on us. I'm 41 years old. I'm around the same age as you. It's up to us to be the leaders now, bro. That torch has been passed to us, whether we want it or not. We was at our strongest when we didn't have segregation, when we was marching together. Our sisters was rocking afros and they was proud. They knew what they was doing when they broke that up. And we've never been able to get back to that type of unity again. And I'm not saying that we have to necessarily be unified. We could take 13 brothers. 13 brothers can make a change. 10 brothers with the same mindset on one accord. I could take 5 brothers in a bank right now. We could walk out with millions if everybody's credit file is built right. And we could do something with that. You got triple net lease agreement properties you could buy where you got Starbucks and Wendy's and things like that on them that you could just own outright. But nobody's really teaching us. You know, our people and our black brothers that are high up there, they want to overprice some information, then you pay for it and it ain't about nothing. Or they want to bogart it or hide it. We can't grow like that. If we keep having this crab in a bucket mentality, then we're going to stay in this same bucket, this same situation. We have to see the problem is us. It starts from within. I don't blame white people. You know what I'm saying? For every single thing. I blame black people too. Because what decision did you make to get yourself in jail to get arrested? What decision did you make to get that disease? What decision did you make to put yourself or to lose your job? You know, everything ain't the white man's fault. Some of that shit is just you. You know, some of it, you got to look in the mirror as a black man or a black woman and say, you know what? I want to change. I want to make this difference. And I mean, I didn't come on here to preach. I just wanted to make that point because we can build whatever. We're already living in existence of what we build. You got brothers taking trips to Egypt. You got brothers going to look at the Olmec statues. Who do those people look like? We everywhere. We everywhere, from Brazil to one of the oldest pyramids in Brazil, and anywhere you travel, we everywhere, bro. Right. And guess what? We on the bottom everywhere because ain't nobody going to get them people all around the world. You go to Colombia, go to Brazil, all these places you didn't travel to, I didn't travel to. Brother, we on the bottom for lack of education. We're not going back to reach the people or give us the proper guidance or systems in place that whether I speak your language or not, you can sit down at a computer and plug and play. When you're going on these white people jobs, what they do, they put you on a computer, they train you. How are we training each other? How are we training our children? You got little kids, 2 and 3 years old. Start teaching them another language so they can speak, they could be bilingual. Guess what? They could get paid more. Now they could do more instead of just going for basic degrees. We're too conditioned. We're conditioned to go to school, get married, go into debt. But how do we get out of debt? What do we do with 100,000 if someone gave it to you today? Most people can't even answer that. Where do you put it? What do you invest in? So while you allow me on this platform, I want brothers to just do some research, do e-com automation, look up Amazon automation, look up passive ways that you could start making money. Go to a website like FS Choice if you're into Forex. That's passive. You can invest in things off of other investors. Nobody's teaching us this. Nobody's showing us about business credit and the duality that you have. We'll just go and get a car. We'll just go and get a house. But what about the business side? What about that? That don't even show on your personal credit. Go ahead, bro.
No, my it's a storm where I'm at. That's what that shit was.
Okay.
White man got my shit. The white Zeus lighting I'm playing. But anyway, absolutely. And for folks that are like one of the things that get knocked on folks that have passport channels or travel channels is they don't talk about how to. There's plenty of people that talk about how to. Shout out to Master Teacher One. He was talking about finance and credit. I'm passionate about, when it comes to business, I'm passionate about 3 things when it comes to Black people: how to make money, how to flip money, how to keep money. Now, flipping money could be seen as investing as well. Like, it's not just like flipping money. It's pretty much how to take money, how to use your money to make money. I just use flip money in a way, whether it's long-term flipping, short-term flipping, and then how to keep it, which is, understanding the tax code. And there's plenty of channels like that. Shout out to Yusef, who's living in Brazil right now. Black dude, talking about life insurance, talking about business stuff. Shout out to Skylar, MT, Master Teacher One. And it's definitely something that we have to be better about, how to communicate this information that resonates with our people. Because that's when they're going to share it, and that's what creates the kind of concussion effect that you want to create in order to get a collective group, or at least a segment of our population. Because my personal thing is, when I talk about this shit like this, I don't focus on majority of Black people. I say, okay, if the community was like 25%, that's still 10 million Black folks, ADOS. And if you can just get 25 cents on point, eventually the other group, just by the gravity of those folks, should come together. Or then you still have a viable group. I think people have this mentality whether they want to save people that don't want to be saved. And that doesn't have to do with what economic class or background you come from. But at the end of the day, I'm not here to convince. This is not about me denying street dudes or denying educated dudes. It's about me saying, if you value this, you value it. If you don't, I'm going to be here, but I'm not here to constantly convince somebody. You're going to come to it when you come to it. And then when you come to it, I'll be there. And then we'll see where you're at. I've seen dudes I know dudes that have businesses that you wouldn't even think they're Black owned. You would assume a white person owned it if you walked in there. And these are dudes that used to be ex-cons. They did shit, and then they served their sentence. I'm talking about shit like bakeries and shit. They are not only a bakery, because like, for example, a bakery is not the money a bakery generates is not, a small business is not just what they sell a customer. It's also deals that they have distributing products with other businesses. People forget that. So it's just a mentality that we have to have. Also, we have to understand that economically, everybody's competing. So you're either competing or you're getting got. And as Black people, white supremacy is assigned us in America as the spenders. We are to spend all of our money to keep ourselves in our position, but also power the economy. That is our role. And this is why when you look at that $1 trillion spending power, it never translate into any other kind of power. What you find is the top 3 things that are spent on is feminine hygiene, weave, shoes is in there. It's like the top 3 things are like women involved, and then it's like the next 2 are like dudes. So at the end of the day, finances is important. Here's another thing I'll say too. I understand that people want to do shit. I'm not this type of dude to say you got to drop everything you're doing and live a certain type of way. But what I will say is I'm not going to tell you what to do. but understand there's always a smarter, more efficient way to do it. If you like Jordans, you can take your ass to the outlet mall and get Jordans, or you create a YouTube channel around your passion for Jordans, and maybe it'll make money for you, because a lot of people are interested in that. When it comes to getting cars, you can buy a car cash, like what talked about before. And if you know somebody that's in the dealer that's got a dealer license, he could probably get you something on the lot. It's probably, you know, if you got cash for it. You know, there are ways, if you work a 9-to-5 job, you can invest in a business or a hustle, like a food truck or whatever. There's always something you can do. One thing I don't want to fucking hear anymore is that everybody can't do a business. Motherfucker, if everybody can get a degree according to these motherfuckers, but everybody can't do a business. That's not true. And we got to get out of certain of those mentalities. Then, you know, we could talk about building collective communities. But there, like I said, Ghana there is a community of African Americans in Ghana. And I would say Black people need to explore these things and invest in it. You want to talk about education? We didn't learn about Liberia. I didn't hear about Liberia. I had to learn that shit on my own. And I learned that shit by accident. I did not know we had a whole country that was a colony up until the 70s where the Civil War broke out, which America did, by the way, that was really on the verge of being like a strong economy. Imagine if you had a country in Africa that was the size of Maryland that had a U.S. base on it, if they weren't trying to fuck us up, because now they needed to go into Africa because China's already there, but they couldn't fuck us up because they know these motherfuckers can turn on America and go with the Chinese. Imagine where Black people's role would be into that, and what that would do as having a foothold in Africa you just go back and forth to as easily as somebody was going to the Dominican Republic. Obviously a longer flight, but you get what I'm saying. Imagine what that would do. And that's what was fucked up from us. And that was something that a lot of those mulattoes spent generations building. So I'm very much aware of white supremacy and what it will do. And that's why when motherfuckers talk about going overseas as a group problem, like America's reach is far more beyond just the borders. It always has been. Well, not always, but you know what I'm saying? World War II. Anyway.
But can I say this though, brother? Who cares how far their reach is? These people have done everything in their life to try to destroy us, and guess what? We still the most holiest people.
Well, what I'm saying is you're never safe. That's all I'm saying. My point is you can never be complacent. That's all I mean when I say that. And folks who think if I go overseas, I'm good. There's nothing else I got to worry about. And the reality is, all groups understand this. This is why when groups come to America, their countries can't fuck with them as easily, but they're never complacent. So the thing that we have to stop being as Black people, Black men in particular, is being complacent. That's all I meant by that. But go ahead. I just wanted to clarify that.
No, I agree with you on that. But I also think that we need to stop being afraid of these people. And we need to stop being afraid of our own damn self. Do you understand? People are afraid of fear. They're afraid of failure. Failure is just the first attempt in learning. So when you're going to always fail. You ever try to put something together and it didn't work?
Failure is a part of the process.
Right. But we don't think like that mentally. This is mental for us. We don't fear them. We bombing cars all on TV. We protesting and marching. We need to start fighting more. I mean, I'm not just saying just physically with military and artillery, but mentally. Fight them in the court.
Litigiously too, yeah.
We learn Black Law Dictionary, but yet we don't use it in a court of law. Fight the credit bureaus. Fight them on anything that's injustice. That's what our people did. You brought up the Black Panthers and Huey Newton. Most of them boys studied law, and one of them was a lawyer. So they wasn't afraid to go in their courts and speak for themselves. That's all a lawyer do for you. We got to stop having fear. We got to use our strength, man. Our strength is our strength. It's our heart. It's our mind. It's our spirit. It's coded to our DNA. You could take away every church in America. We still would have a voice. We still would have a praise. We still would have a song. We still would be the most spiritual people and the most powerful because it started with us. From the dust of this ground we came, and from the dust of this ground we gonna return. These people don't want it with us. But yet it's gonna come a time where we're gonna have to fight back. If you a Black man and you ain't got a felony, strap up. It's a travesty if you don't got a gun in this America right now and you can go and get a license and carry it legally. Stop smoking so much weed. That's another one of our problems. We smoke so much weed and it makes us complacent. It makes us lazy. If you need weed to calm down, something wrong with you. Pray, walk, vent, do breathing exercises, do something to channel that anger out of you. But we got to change the things that's giving us the same thing, keeping us in the same lane, because we ain't getting nowhere without change. It's insanity to keep doing the same thing, but that's DNA encoded into our brain. You understand? So it starts with a fight, brother. It starts with financial education. It starts with mental education and the
Hey, brother,
mental strength.
hold that thought 1 second, bro. I just want to thank my brother Nostalgic Sounds for the $5. He says only two things going to save us: our own black militia and or buying only black. Appreciate that, brother.
I agree with that as well too. But at the end of the day, like I gave a reference, biz buy sell. You could go on there. There's businesses for sale that we don't even know about. We could buy these businesses for pennies on the dollar. You got people selling businesses that are sick. They just want to retire in all kind of niches, from AC to plumbing and all different types of genres. We got to start researching. You're in an informational age. So to be ignorant in 2020, you just want to be ignorant. Period is that. You can find anything you need on Google or a little bit of research or just talking to people and getting out there. We got to stop making excuses for each other, and we got to stop making excuses for ourselves. We got to deal with it, own up to the mistakes that we made, and fix that problem. And I'm gonna mute out on that.
That's a very good point, Elliot. That's extremely good points, brother. Edward, you have anything to say?
No, I mean, the point is, like I said, I agree with a lot of what he's saying. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have a get out and get it mentality. I always find the dudes have no excuses when it comes to getting pussy, but they have all excuses in the world when it comes to doing business. And that's kind of the thing. I start there because you'll never hear dudes talk about white supremacy when it comes to getting pussy, but you'll always hear it when it comes to anything else. And folks got to really look at that. But yes, there are plans. I'm a student of Dr. Claude Anderson. There are plans in place to do certain things, and there's an individual component, which that's what you're accountable to, and there's a group component, which, folks got to be passionate about doing it. I mean, if I look at things like Pan-Africanism and stuff like that, or the Black church, like where Black people have collected, you find that there are things lacking when it comes to this stuff. There is a lot of rhetoric, but when you look at the details, and there are some things that are being done, I'm not saying there's not, but at the same time, it's just a lot of talking to get folks hyped up, but not really the things that you should be able to see that has been done if they were really going about doing it. And there's some things, but it's not enough. Like, for instance, Black group economics used to go through the Black church. And when you look at, okay, if you actually do an assessment of what is the church doing in that regard, like some of the stuff that he talked about, what you'll find is they're severely lacking as a collective. Sure, there's some people that are doing some good stuff, like Kevin Crosby and stuff like that, Myron Golden, but overall, it's lacking. But then they getting all this fucking tithe money. Well, I guess it's going to God. When you look at Pan-Africanism, you see some things, but at the end of the day, you don't the global stuff that I talked about, you see some of that, but it's not where it kind of should be. If you really understand Liberia, understand how far along we were, and definitely Pan-Africanism doesn't do a good job disseminating it through the Black masses or going after investors. And I'm not trying to say, I mean, there's individuals doing what they're doing. So this is more of looking at the stuff as a group. So it is, and they're smaller. Like I said, the Nation of Islam, I think, does a lot. Even they does a lot. I think they're a good model, and I'm not Muslim. I've looked at communities that have created, have like merged land and done stuff. So I've looked at the mechanics of what that would take. So it's a lot of stuff.
Okay, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. The churches, that platform all across the board is underutilized. That's another thing we need to improve on. So we try to commercialize everything and try to capitalize off of it instead of just truly helping the people. And I agree with what you said earlier. You can't help everybody. You're right. 90% of what you say gonna go in one ear and come out of the other. But that 10% or that 1%, that's who you want. That's why I said I could take 5 brothers and we could all be millionaires. I don't need everybody. I don't want everybody. That's how you eliminate that coonery that brought down the Black Panthers. I want to know who's with me at the top, and I want to know that I can trust you. So that way, if something does go down and you snitch, I got 1, 2 people that I can look at. I don't got to go through 100, or I don't got to go through 1,000. I don't want to be infiltrated like that. I just need the right-minded brothers, because see, 8 brothers can do, magical things. And I never will go to these churches for anything because I know what they about. I know what these TD snakes are about. So I agree with you on that. They shouldn't be having church and playing organs. They should be talking and having wealth building strategies, helping each other. See, you got brothers that are making money, but they're not coming back for them because they feel like they made it. They want to go out there and live with Slim Shady them, but then Slim Shady them don't really want you in the neighborhood. You still a nigga no matter where you go. They didn't stole our country. We got to steal it back. They stole from the Indians. They stole from us, but we ain't never tried to take it back. So I respect what Gaddafi was doing when he was trying to unite Africa with the minerals and things like that. We should have been doing that. Shaka Zulu should have killed them when they first stepped on the shores. Should have never taught them nothing about what we know. But now look at the condition that we in. We got to take back by force what they took.
Shit, look at the condition South Africa in today.
Exactly. The scriptures say there's a time for love, a time for war, and a time for peace. That means, and it's a time to kill, okay? That time is going to come. You know, we move into a robotic society. 2030 is going to look different from 2020. They're going to peopleless cars. You get what I'm saying? Start investing in technology. Start investing in AI. Start investing in transportation. Start investing in Bitcoin. You're already using it now. Like this whole entire system is a scam. Go look at the history of the Monopoly game and look at how they made that game based off of how the bankers run this world. Now, they say that we're paying for something when we go into Walmart, right? You walk down each aisle, right? You buy coffee, you get meat, you get all of this. But what the hell did you really pay for? You go take a plastic card, put it in the machine, and you come out with a piece of paper, and you're permitted to walk out of that store. Now, let's say you never paid that credit card bill, and it goes on your credit report, right? Is Walmart coming to get their groceries? No, because they in your belly, and you didn't shit in them out. So this shit is fake. But we give it credence by thinking that it's real. And we don't stand up, fight, or take none of this shit back that they stole from us. It's gonna come down to war. That's what we're headed to. If we don't
go ahead. Because I still want to get on. The topic is like, I'm trying to, because I've said a lot too. And the topic, what is the topic again? Because I done forgot.
Can we build Black Wall Street in 2020?
Oh, okay. So yeah, the answer is yes. When it comes to like I get the motivational part, but you had on here. What was his name? The picture you had the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. One of the things,
Jay Morrison.
Yeah, one of the things that I always edge against is a lot of times when we get hyped and ultra passionate, a lot of times, what that does is that puts Black people in a certain state. And then what happens is when they come off that state, it's like nothing happens. And that's why we got to have a kind of thing where everything's are being done consistently. That's why motherfuckers like the church so much, because the rhetoric, this is why females like it so much, because it's like the rhetoric and all that. But at the end of the day, when you ask them about what the church it doesn't even matter if I think it should be doing, like if they're doing what I think they should be doing. I'm like, so when you go, what do you get out of it that's tangible? They don't know, because they go to get hyped up. So it's kind of like, as far as the mechanical part of talking about how to do this, I definitely, but my thing is, if Black people got to be motivated to that extent to do shit, then they really don't want to do it. That's really the truth behind that.
We got to definitely discuss some things like what comes first, the protection or the building? You know what I'm saying? Like, do we focus on the politics behind it so we can protect ourselves from, we know they're going to interfere with it.
Economics come before the buildings. Economics come before politics.
I agree.
You can't, because politics, because Black people's problem with politics is we believe we can vote politicians in when you have to buy politicians. This is why Asians do. I understand they don't get fucked with like we do, but this is why Asians tend to have a better job getting things out of the political system we do, because we don't buy our politicians. And there's certain places, like I was just talking on another channel, and we were talking about Maryland. He was talking about how the marijuana industry, they were having an issue getting like weed licenses. And we talk about people in Prince George County, which is one of the richest counties. It's one of the richest Black counties, but also one of the richest counties in the United States. In Maryland, that shouldn't happen. And people will say they'll blame the government. Yes, obviously, but I also blame the people, because it's like, you have the money to buy these politicians. Why didn't you? Like, it's not that expensive to buy county politicians. We're not talking about buying the president. Oh, it's $1 billion to run for president. It ain't $1 billion to run for county commissioner. It's not $1 billion to have control of these city councils. And you're supposed to be getting economic benefit from doing that anyway. So, I mean, what are you all doing? And this is where it comes back to dude talk about leaving the community and going to other places. But here's the thing. People are going to do that. My thing is, are they putting their money into the community? And this is what the pastors were for. They were supposed to be a bridge between folks that left the community and folks that are still there economically. That was their role. This is why they were given the kind of cachet they were given and given the carte blanche to control the church money, because they were supposed to be arbiters of that. And they've gotten away from that. And quite frankly, because dudes left the church, which I understand why, the females don't know what the fuck is going on. And they're just going there to get emotional. It was supposed to be the dudes to do that. And there's other dudes that are in on it, the bishops and all of that. So I'm not just saying the church is fucked up. I'm going into the mechanics of how they're fucking up. Because a lot of people, but yeah, you know, so because these are things you can hold them accountable to. You know,
I just want to welcome my brother Mufasa Shabazz to the show and Black Torch to the show. Welcome, brothers.
Thank you.
All right, Edward, go ahead and finish your thought, and I'm gonna go ahead and
because I'll be on. Yeah, because I'll be on for a little bit longer. I'm glad this thing definitely got popped off. There's some stuff I got to do, but yeah, man. I mean, you know, I'm pro-black, but I'm more of an economic pro-black. So I'm all about like, what do the numbers look like? What are the tangibles? You know, folks are gonna disagree when, you know, I start saying you be pro-black and sleep white, because at the end of the day, people bring a lot of emotional stuff to stuff that's very like numerical. When you actually look at other groups that talk about the mechanics of community building or community maintenance is what they usually do, there are things that are obviously preferred. But then I think there's things that we kind of put stakes in that should be put. At the end of the day, yes, you should be prepared when it comes to violence. But the truth is, you know, a lot, it's not as complicated as, you know, having this ultra like hype mentality on stuff. It's at the end of the day, you have to raise your kids a certain type of way. You have to program them a certain type of way. And if you don't, then you just, at the end of the day, my personal opinion is black people are gonna have to separate. This is why I don't focus on the majority population.
Separate from what?
We're gonna have to separate from other black people. There's gonna have to be a cultural divide. And I think only 20% of black people really are 25% are really viable to even start with, you know, because there's too many people that they're not gonna want to change until you have to bail them out. And they know what it is just like everybody else does. And I'm not talking about separate, aka assimilate. I'm talking about separate culturally. And I'm not talking about hyper-assimilation either.
Let me ask you this, and I'm kind of playing a white man's advocate more so than challenge you, but like, do you feel that what happens with the majority of the black population, whether you want it to or not, affects you? And do you think if 20% of us declare that we're separating, do you think it will cease to affect us just because we?
Well, it doesn't have. You don't have to declare. You just do it, and you do it by action. When I say action, I don't mean the action of separating. I mean adopting a certain culture. For instance, the Nation of Islam is a perfect example of that. Of course, they're affected, but they operate on their own rules, their own terms. Of course, they're fucked with a little bit, but they are disciplined as a unit. Now, obviously, they're only like 60, 70, 80,000 strong. But and I'm not saying to be Muslim, but what I am saying is if you have a culture of business, a culture of ownership, you've seen this, there's even certain class levels. The folks that try to separate with class have the right idea. The problem though is they're missing some components. Number one, their idea of class is bent on, they believe it's sustained by assimilating into non-black society, which is a false flag. They also don't do a good enough job working together in the groups that they are in. You know, they have an assimilation issue, and if they tampered that a little bit, they actually have the right idea. It's just certain components that they're lacking that make it so, you know, they're fucking up.
It's a pride issue. But my thing is, I'm glad you brought up the Nation of Islam, because the Nation of Islam, like when I was younger, I used to say like, look, man, we need to get groups, we need to get people together, and we need to teach our own customs and separate from society and da 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 da. And one day it had hit me. The Nation of Islam's been doing this for decades.
Yeah,
everything
that's why
I'm thinking about. Yeah, but everything I'm thinking we need to do has been done. So they were the perfect case study. And when I looked at the case study, I realized that doing all that shit's not going to really change anything. You're still going to be in the same type of situation. And that's when I realized what you really need is the control of land. Because what you brought up earlier, the whole
Exactly.
thing of, yeah, that whole thing of like black people, this whole focus on interracial and all that, and oh well, you married to this person and you can't da 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 da. That comes from not having anything on the line. You know what I'm saying? If you go to the U.S. military and say I want to enlist, they don't ask you who you're fucking, because they have a mission, they have something on, they have things at stake. You know, but when you're just a black person that you've never had any real responsibility, nothing's on the line, you don't know what it's like to have, you know what I mean? You're never pressed. You're always just a worker. You're just a cog in a machine. You don't understand that you don't have time to be petty. You know what I mean? And that's what
Yeah.
that's about. You know.
Well, and like I
But
said, the Nation of Islam is not perfect. I mean, like I said, they have a land issue, and that's why I've also looked at Scientology. I'm not looking at these things to adopt them, but there's a show series called Scientology in the Aftermath. It's led by Leah Remini, and it was very interesting because not because of what they were talking about with Scientology and how part of what I was interested in is how they were able to crowd control people, but also the part of what I'm interested in is how they own. When I say they own, they have land in which they build buildings on. They bought cities. Pretty much the entire downtown of Clearwater is owned by Scientologists. You know, they had a mission, kind of
Hey,
like what you're saying, and they did
hold
control.
that thought for a second, Edward. Let me just get this out of the way real quick. Brother Nostalgic Sounds, I appreciate the super chat once again. He says our top 3 problems is self-hate, individualism, and racism, in that order.
he's on it. He's on it.
Well, I don't mean to say that I disagree, but I don't see how this is possible because one, religion, Islamic religion, they had a whole bunch of slave trading, and that was the first slave trade out of Africa. And the second part of the which I
That
can't
was the
believe.
first.
Wait,
Oh,
wait, let
go
me.
ahead.
No, that was the first one because it was the Islamic slave trade first. Then came the European slave trade with the help of the Africans who helped them do it. But
Mm.
my issue is that that's not we got here because of these two religions. Now you're talking about going back to these same religions that it was Bartholomew de las Casas and Pope Innocent that said, hey, guess what? Use them as slaves. You know, I'm sorry.
Who
I'm
said
not.
going back to? Who said
Wait,
going
wait,
back to
wait.
religion? Did the other dude say
Edward,
it?
I never interrupted you. Let me finish my thought. I'm just saying that you used the Nation of Islam. You said that could be a model, and I said no. It's based on the wrong premise. Is based on Islam, which I have a personal problem with, just like I have a personal problem with the Christian religion, because that was the same Christians and Catholics who sold us and brought us over here. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Okay.
But
Wait, wait.
you
I'm
do
just making it
understand
clear.
that
I'm making it
African
clear. Can I
society.
finish my point?
But
I said.
Hold on right
go
quick,
ahead.
Edward. Let me finish
All
this
right.
point.
My thing is, I think you're missing the point. The thing that really got us over here is technology. The Europeans came with the technology, and
Mm.
that's why we're over here because of technology. What we need to do is focus in on this new technology that's coming in. Fuck all this other bullshit because whoever has the technology will rule the next fucking century. Not all this bullshit about self hate and all this. No, the Japanese, you see these Asians come here and to this country, what do? They spend all their time telling their kids to go to school and do that. Thus, what's going on? And and a correction, Edward. Another issue you said that I had it in my notes about the Jews. The Jews were money changers and bankers from the biblical time. They always had access to money. They couldn't own land, but they had access to. They were the money changers. They were the merchants. Look up a guy named Levy. He had the biggest merchant things in the state of New York, and he was a Jewish guy. So they always had money. They always had the access to money here. We never had access to money because that's what and every time we did, they as you saw in the special, they had a thing where the guys they wouldn't even give black people a banking license, and
Mm.
they had to front and get a white person to do it. So I see it totally different. I'm an engineer. I see the difference what we can do with technology. Not I don't believe in any religion going to help us, because God didn't help us in all this time. He didn't hear not one prayer, nothing. The only thing that's going to help us is technology, and that's all I got to say. Now you can beat me.
Okay, so the reason why that was annoying is, number one, I use those as mechanical governmental building examples. I never reference religion ever. Now maybe it was did it because I got cut off and got off my phone. I use that as a model of what has already been done. I'm talking about from a governmental standpoint. I did not. I actually went out of my way to say no. I'm not saying to actually convert to Islam. I said that multiple times. I said I was a Muslim as well. So I'm not looking at it from that angle. I'm not looking at it from a Christian angle. I talk about the church. That is another model that was established in as far as what Black people in America have done and what the structure was there to ultimately do. And I took actually religion out of it. Nothing I said was religion. As far as what the Jews were, I said also they had that culture in them going thousands of years, was explained as to why they were able to bank with each other when they were getting discriminated against, because they had the money and they had the organization that they got. I didn't say from biblical times, but I said that they got from way back when that they already had, which is a reason why Black people did not do that and did not know how to do that, because we didn't have either at the time. So we couldn't necessarily, that's what I said. So everything you kind of said kind of counter things I never really even said, and I actually went out of my way to explain in the moment of me saying it that wasn't what I was saying. But with the technology piece, nothing I said was anti-technology. So one thing you need to understand is Black people are one of the most spiritual people in the in the world. You're never gonna decouple that. Period. Ever. And now, what religion they have, that can change. But to say that Black people need to, I'm not saying you're saying this, but if you say they need to adopt technology like Asians do, Asians really are atheistic in nature as a collective group. So Black people will never be that. Now,
I must disagree with that, because that's not true.
Okay, so other than individuals, show me a collective group, ethnic group, race, like whatever it's anything considered melanated that is like atheistic in
No,
nature.
I didn't say no. No. I'm making a point, because you said that no, the Asians, in fact, they have a different. The Asians, I give an example. Indians, they're Hindus and Muslims. They have their own.
I'm talking about Orientals, but go ahead.
Well, they're Asians. Okay, I can go to the Japanese. They're Shinto. I can go to the Chinese, Confucius. I can see. It's
That's not a
we don't.
belief in God. That's an atheistic mindset. But go ahead.
No, but see, that's the thing. I don't want to make this a metaphysical argument about what is God and what is not. That's their beliefs. The Chinese believe in Confucianism. That's what they believe. The Japanese believe in Shintoism. That's what it is an offshoot of Buddhism.
Those are philosophies.
But that's
those are not a religion.
But okay, I'm not gonna make this a metaphysical argument.
And Black people, show me the Black people that believe in a philosophy over a religion.
Show you the Dogon. They believe in the philosophy. In fact, they ran from the Muslims who tried to bring them into their thing. That was a philosophy.
Where did Dogon based in?
There is all these Black people in Brazil that and called them Blade. You've been to Brazil, and so have I. And what did they do? They kept their religions that they kept when they brought the slaves over. I'm trying to tell you, you can't believe in somebody else's religion. You got to believe in somebody who. Wait, I'm just making a point. I'm not saying you said that, Edward. Don't. That's all. I'm just making a point that these groups have a way of showing their spiritualism, but it's a different way, and that's all I'm saying.
So here's the thing, like religion, the problem is, I know where Black people are. We're talking about ADOS Blacks in particular, but you can lump in Africans too. What you're basically essentially saying is we should go literally 50 steps back from the starting point to unplug Black people from a religion. And then not only the level of fight that they will have with you is unlike what these white people will do. That is from a practical standpoint, that makes no sense. I'm more of a person of meeting people where they are. At the end of the day, black people are going to be Christians, Muslims are going to be Muslims. It's better to just, because first of all, the Nation of Islam is not necessarily beholden to Islam. They are an offset of Islam. So they created really their own shit they modified it to what they wanted, which is something black Christians need to do that they have not done. My point to saying is this, that I don't even need to argue religion. Let's start the technology piece, because there is no religion that's anti-technology. So amongst technology, the real problem from black people adopting technology in a more intrinsic way, because that's what you said as far as moving forward, is culture. And that has nothing to do with religion. Technology makes pussy dry. And that's the biggest reason why you don't get black men in the technology in a way that you can. And to be honest with you, that's true for business. That's not like glorified business as well. Business is boring. Entrepreneurship is boring. And the reality of the situation is, if it doesn't get you pussy, it's no point in doing it. And that is a culture issue that ADOS blacks have. And that is really the religion that if I'm going to invest in breaking, I call that gynocracy. That's the culture that needs to be broken. Because if that's not broken, fuck Christianity, Islam, we're not going nowhere.
Well, I mean, my thing on the, hold on, let me jump in.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah.
No, well, like I said, all I was going to say is religion is not, Christianity is not. There's a zillion different ways to be a Christian. It's not about Christianity. It's about what doctrine that you practice. You see what I'm saying? Nat Turner was reading out the same Bible as whoever else, the sellout. It's just how you decide to use it. At the end of the day, people are going to have their religions. You know what I mean? We shouldn't get detracted by that. And earlier you said that Islam. Hold on, let me finish my point real quick. You were saying that the Islam started the slave trade. Then you talked about how the Christians came after the white Christians came with the slave trade, but that's not true, because we have been trading ourselves as slaves already for years.
No,
so
without slavery was different.
If you're going against slavers, we were slavers too. So you be going against ourselves. Everybody.
Well, the religion was a justification. Here's the thing, and I'm not taking Christianity off the hook at all. I personally don't care, but understand, people look. This goes back to like Constantine and stuff like that. People bend the religion to what they want, and they pull the religion from other stuff.
And we could do that. We could do that again.
So at the end of the day, the religion. People will say, well, the problem is black people are Christian. Now, here's the thing. That problem is not completely wrong, because if you wanted to focus on the fact that black people, I call black people New Testament Christians, and white people tend to operate on more of the Old Testament type of shit. The eye for an eye type of shit is how white people practice Christianity.
Well,
versus
white people don't give a damn about the book Bible and no side.
No, they don't. But what I'm saying, what I'm saying,
same thing.
Exactly. And what I'm saying is, this is why when motherfuckers will talk to forgive shit, I will say, well, it's also in that first part of that book talk about eye for an eye. So what the fuck are you really forgiving for? Well, that's my Christian. No, fuck you. No, it's not. It's because you're a coward and using that to hide behind it. Don't blame Christianity for you being a coward. Now, here's the thing, though. But too many, if you want to look at it from a perspective of too many black people as a collective group adhere to the cowardice part, then yeah, you'd have a point. I'm just saying that the bigger point, if you want to have an argument about technology, then yeah, that's a point too. But it wasn't that I didn't mention it because it wasn't important. It's that whether it's technology, whether it's whatever, it's always going to be the mechanics of how to do things. And really beyond technology, if you don't have the right culture to do something, the technology doesn't matter. I mean, hell, Jews will tell you that. You said it yourself when it comes to the money. They control the money, and technologies and shit come and goes.
Yeah, but the problem is the new technology is moving from what they know it as a fiat currency now to a digital currency. So technology is changing, and they're scrambling also. So because they don't control the digital. They control the fiat. They control the LIBOR, where the banks come in and they make the arbitrage, and they scam and put those numbers up. But they don't control the digital, and that's what the issue is. And that's what I'm saying. I just want to get back to the topic, because it's my fault when I just needed to say, I didn't want to get that off my chest, but I just said like this. I'm firmly in belief that if we're going to build something, it has to be built on two things: not in America, and
Mm.
on technology. Because if you,
All right, brother.
it's been how many times? Einstein said it best. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results ain't gonna
Mm.
make it. I'm sorry.
Mm.
We got to say, okay, we tried, and that's the thing. When we can agree that said, okay, we tried, there's over 100 different examples. I just brought up 2 or 3 of them about Wilmington and Rosewood, but there's hundreds of them here in the history books about a thing, and it doesn't change. We need an exodus from this
I mean,
exit stage left,
Mm.
and
the
we
Middle
need.
East have been fighting for the
Hold
same
on,
land
hold on, Edward.
for 2 millenniums.
Edward,
So
hold
I
on,
mean, go ahead though.
hold on, Edward. Let the brother finish his thought, and then I want to get
Okay, the
Edward's
reason
opinion.
why the reason why I say that, because we have been living in the belly of the beast. We know all the tricks because they've been done to us. So what we do now is get ourselves, get whatever. I see it on YouTube. There's a guy in Gambia who left here. He was a soldier. He took his 7 kids. He packed up, and now he's building his own little oasis over there. There's Akon, who was an African guy who lived here and went here and made money here. What
I
did he
mean, that's
do?
an
But
individual.
I'm
I
just,
mean,
yeah, but it all starts. Economics starts with individuals. It doesn't start with a group of people. It starts with, hey, I see a
so
guy over there. Wait, let me finish. A guy over there doing something. I said, hey, I contact the guy. Says, hey, can I do things over there? He says, yeah, there's a wide open. And there's guys doing that in Senegal. There's guys doing that in Ghana. It's not a planned thing, because I give an example. When we tried to do it with Marcus Garvey, who was an ADOS, what did they do? They deported his ass and turned.
okay.
Okay, and I'm done.
Hold on, Edward.
And I mean, it's the
Edward,
same.
Edward,
Go
Edward,
ahead,
Edward,
go ahead, go
Edward, hold the
ahead.
thought real quick. Elliot, you still there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here, brother.
Okay. Did you want to respond to what Mufasa just said about not building in the states?
No, that was Black Torch.
I'm sorry, that was back toward my bad, brother.
Yeah, I think building is a worldwide thing. I also agree with what the brother said. We need but the 2 things that he said that we need, but I think that he forgot to mention economics. Because without economics, we ain't gonna be able to travel. We ain't gonna be able to buy nothing to build. So in my opinion, like I stated earlier, it all starts with education and it starts with economics. Where we lack the most is education. When you look at our inner city schools, we're dumbed down. They're not giving us proper education. Damn sure ain't giving us nothing financial. Like I said, I will talk financial education till I die. And I do agree with what Edward said. I'm more of like an economic type brother, just like this brother, because that's what we need. If without the economical education, bro, we're gonna still be in poverty. We're gonna be slaving on these jobs. None of us was born to work, pay bills, and die. None of us. But if you don't creatively think of a way to get out of that situation, then you're gonna be a slave to what you own. You're going to be a slave on these cracker jobs for the rest of your life if you don't start using your brain. God gave us all one thing, and that's thoughts. And he gave us that free of coercion. I don't care what a cracker do. I don't care what systems they put in place. You can't control me because you can never own my soul unless I give it to you or sign it away. And you can't control my brain unless I allow you into my head. And that's what we've done as Black people. I agree with all of the brothers on the panel. I think everybody's making great points. But it starts still with education from our children on up to the adults. But see, I see a lack of education in these young kids because the parents don't know shit to teach the kids. So the kids grow up dumb. And then you see them on the street corners, wild as a raging bull. Everybody want to be a dope boy. Everybody want to be a rapper. Everybody want to be that, but a businessman, a lawyer, a doctor, a financial advisor, some shit that we really need in the communities. Another thing we need to do is kick these damn Chinese people out of our communities. Kick these Habibs out of the corner stores. Put our own grocery stores in our neighborhoods. Own a damn convenience store. We got to get back to basic stuff. I got a list I'll share with you of all minority banks. The brother Edward made a point. He said that there's businesses out there that you don't even know are Black owned. He's right. There's banks out there that got the name Chase, Bank of America, SunTrust, but they owned by brothers, but you don't know that. We need to start utilizing what we have. Instead of going to all these cracker systems and getting raped on these interest rates, let's go to our own people. Let's see if we could get something different. But I mean, I think, but to answer the question, I think, Aaron, that we could build in America, and I think that we need to make it global because we're everywhere. We didn't just land in America. We're in Brazil. We're in Colombia. Those people need help too. But it all starts with what the brother said too: technology. Technology is the system that you're gonna use. When you go and work these white people jobs, you're using technology. You're using systems. You use an ATM, technology. You're using your cell phone, technology. What we on StreamYard, technology. Technology is the future. Digital is the future. And without that education for Bitcoin, technology, financial, we're gonna stay left behind. That's why they live in the better neighborhoods. That's why they build further out to get away from us because we didn't caught up to them there. We got to continue to do that, but it starts with education. That has to be our foundation.
So, I actually disagree with that. It starts with culture. That's the problem.
What culture, bro? We've been talking. We already got that. We the salt of the earth. Everybody.
No. Hell no. See, that's
Edward, I was going to say it, but you say it. Go ahead.
That's the problem. And see, that's the problem. Black people have been talking education for a long time. But when you actually have a conversation about, I mean, you saying the right things on finance, but when you actually talk about them, what education means, they talk about getting degrees and shit. You know, the reality, there is structural shit, and there is, that shit that people talk about esoteric when they call education. The problem with why black people don't do what you're talking to is not that they don't know. Yeah, they don't know, but it's also the will. It's a will issue, and it's a will issue because our culture is fundamentally broken. Now we don't have the software. It's kind of like having an operating system, and then the application will be education because what you're educated with. Our operating system is broken. Now you can say white supremacy, all that. That is absolutely true, but I think from a black person perspective, the reason why our culture is broken is because black people fundamentally do not want to be honest about what the situation they're in, how they got there, and what they need to do to get out of it. Not as a group. Like, think about what gets talked about. I just mentioned the black church. Why do you think the black church gets the money that they get? You heard all the stuff that said is negative about the church. Yet they still get billions and billions of dollars from black people every year. They get it because of culture. And that's why I kind of understood where he was coming from. It's just I didn't want to go that way. And at the end of the day, man, when we talk all that stuff sounds good, but it will fall on deaf ears of people that are not cultured to understand that. Now, when you talked about the parents raising the children, that's true too, because the parents are the ones that ingrain proper culture into the kids. You can't educate adults on shit you should ingrain them on as a child. They will never internalize it like they need to. And this is why the dope boy shit always happens. This is why the bitches say wanting to fuck D-boys. Then when they get 30 and 40, now they want a good man. It's because of fucked up culture. So if you can't address the culture, which I call that gynocracy, nothing matters.
Education is a system. It's a system that needs to be set up. So if you don't set up the education with a end game in mind, the education is just going to go toward whoever's in power wants it to be.
Well, black people don't homeschool each other.
No, but what was the brother's name? Amos Wilson talked about that. He's talked about how people would always say, yeah, we got to educate the children, we got to educate the youth, we got to educate the brothers or whatever. But he's like, okay, so educate them into being what, for what purpose, and to what end?
Well, that's where
education builds culture, though. We talk
no, the hell they don't. Go ahead.
No, it's the opposite. No, I'm wrong. That's wrong. It's if you don't know, because we have all these. I give an example. The gentleman who spoke before, Edward, he was talking about people want to be dope boys and all this other things like that. Where do you think they want to be dope boys from? That's part of the culture. They want to be. That's the problem. They had a whole discussion on educated lames because I'm one of them, which I got kicked out of the neighborhood because I didn't conform to the culture, and that's the problem. The culture is the problem. You can educate anyone, But you got, if they don't have, as Edward said, the proper operating system, it's not going to work. And that's
But
what we have. We have black people living in upper class suburban things. And what do they want to be? The kids want to be dope boys.
Mm.
That's
Culture
fucked
is
up.
like
That's
culture
fucked
is
up
like the
culture.
subconscious. Culture is like the subconscious, and and education is like the conscious. That's and the subconscious, even though it's not as seen as the as much as the conscious, it is more powerful. The subconscious will bend. The conscious will bend to the subconscious, and it's a lack of understanding that as to why people do what they do. And like, here's the thing: obviously, you're a certain type of way because you have a certain type of awareness, Elliot, so you can override that because it's in your central focus. You've already said you're a finance guy. But see, for people where it's not their central focus, or it may be a background focus, you can look at the same thing with Americans in general when it comes to using credit. You know, everybody kind of knows you should have good credit or deal with credit. But when you look at the majority outcomes on credit with all races, it generally is the same. It's just white people have more money. It's because they are indoctrinated with a consumer culture.
I give
but
it.
at the end of the day, but
I
black.
give
But
an example.
let me ask you this:
Hmm.
Black Wall Street, was Black Wall Street founded off of culture or education?
It was
Oh,
founded off of culture.
that
No,
was
it
built
wasn't.
on the culture
It was
Yes,
because
it
built. It was
was
built
because
off.
they
It was built off of the knowledge on how to build, how to own your own bank. Like the brother said that it takes
no,
operate. It
no,
take, hold on,
no,
brother. Hold on, brother. You said you need operating systems, right? Well, how the hell can you run an operating system without the education on how to run it?
no.
Linux.
You don't understand how operating systems work. First of all, that's not how an operating system works. An operating system is the basic instructions of how the computer runs, and that's the same when the analogy, the proper
But
analogy
brother,
is.
a
Wait,
computer
wait.
can't
It's
run if you don't
just like.
turn it
Can I?
on, though.
I'm just no, but it's
So
just
so
like.
Dr.
Can I?
Well, Dr. Go ahead, answer it. Yeah,
No,
go ahead.
I'm just trying to make sure that, because the mixing things. I was using Edward's example, but what I'm trying to tell you is like this: we have in this country a fucked up culture, and but as black people, there's no other way to get around it. Because I just explained to you that you kick out your best and brightest out of your community every fucking day, because I
Mm.
was one that was the they look and say, "Oh, you a non pussy getting dude, you're this and that." So I'm sorry to tell you that it's the culture. I seen it
I mean, look,
from you being
operating
person who were getting
systems,
kicked out of the community,
Well, the
and there's
operating
reason,
tons of
systems
us
need
like that. And
programmers,
there's
bro.
tons of us
well,
that's
well,
like
reason why, and
Operating
like I said,
systems
is
need programmers, right? What is
well.
the
Here's the
mind
thing.
you're using to program your operating system? That's the
Well,
question.
Thank
even
That's what
you.
it comes
Doctor,
down to.
well, even Dr. Clark
Because right now
Anderson.
we're programmed to somebody else's what somebody else wants to do. We have to
Well, yeah,
program our own operating system.
well,
That's the
yeah,
issue. Now,
exactly.
but
But
then
at the
that's
end,
where the topic of this discussion comes in. Can you do
yeah,
that on this land? The answer is yes, right? But
no.
I'll say this. I'm with you. I actually agree with you, right? But the point is, when we start to talk about the logistics of it, right? When we talk education, when we talk about an educational system, right? Because people think education just happens in schools. Most of the education you get comes from media. If I was to ask you, for movies, TV shows, news programming, and articles and things like that, that's a very large bulk of your education. Most of the reference points you have in your mind come from what you've seen visually, right? So when you don't control that infrastructure, it's very difficult for you to orient large groups of people and program them into your operating system that operates in your interest.
and
That's
I
why it'd be
disagree with
better.
that
and
because
Go
this
ahead.
is where it comes. Well, this is where it comes. Dr. Clark Anderson talks about the 5 floors, and I'm gonna add a 6th floor. But he
Go ahead,
says
bro.
economics, politics, law, um, media, and the last one, the one that's at the very top, is education. The education is not the bottom one; it is the last as important because that can be dynamically changed easily if you control everything else. I would argue the thing that's at the bottom of economics, which is why Black people don't tend to work together like we need to for the economics piece, is actually culture. And culture controls. And if you look at the person that came up with all the areas of activity, culture controls all of that. If the culture's wrong, it infects all that. And there's nothing is can come out of the gravity of culture. So you have to focus on culture. Like, think about it. Look at the Black church. Let's talk about micro cultures, because what's it called? It came at it hard with. I'm not going to completely dismiss that. What's it called? It came hard about the culture. Look at, obviously the Nation of Islam has a certain type of culture for better or worse. Obviously the Black church has a certain type of culture for better or worse. I've brought up even when you look at Black tech guys or Black people that come from a certain class, assimilationists have a certain culture. The point is, Black people don't look at that and think education is the bottom tier. And because Black people don't look at the culture piece, the education, this is why, even though we keep talking about it, think about the culture that Black people have of educating our girls. We don't have a culture of believing our boys are to be educated first. Every other group does, but us. And but as a result, you look at, when people keep talking about it, they look at what education has done for Black women. And they're in the most debt. They're most consumeristic. They're the easiest programmable of even other women, by the way, because they stay referencing social media for fucking intellectual shit as a group. They spend the most. They have the most debt. Black men are not as educated as they are as Black women is as a group. Yet we make more money. We do a lot of other shit. So education can't be just measured in a degree.
And that's my point to the whole thing. And let's get back to basics. Okay, who is the one that's the bearer of? Who's the one who gives that culture to the newborn?
Woman.
It's the woman. It's the woman that gives that culture to the newborn, and that's the problem. For the first 6 years of life, that's when we are at our most inquisitive.
Programmable.
That's when we learn the most. We're programmable and all that, and that is not what's going on. It's going on. They're looking at, oh, let's make the boy's hair long. Let's make him look pretty. Let's do this. Instead of what really, you look at Asian women with their children at that age, it's totally different. You look at Indian people at that age with their children, it's totally different. We're the only ones, we discard the boys and praise the girls. And that's based on culture. I'm sorry.
Let's be honest, because I don't want to seem like we just beating up on the women, even though what you said was a complete fact, undeniable. The dudes of the last generations, think about it. Really, I'm talking about the boomers. When you hear what the fuck they say, they go along with that shit. It's not like, okay, well, the men are pushing back against what the women are doing, and then it's just because the women are just using white supremacy to control the men. No, a lot of the men go. You don't hear these dudes talking about pulling shit out of school. You don't hear these dudes arguing about how the fuck you not gonna raise the son. They go along with it. And so understand it. When I say gynocracy, I am not just talking about, oh, well, the women are a problem and you need to hop the fence. No, I'm talking about Black men buying the gynocracy too. I promise you that if you gave a choice between patriarchy and gynocracy, Black men would low-key choose gynocracy. It's just like the Matrix. Hold on. It's just like the Matrix, where at some level the problem is choice. Because you don't see enough pushback remember, we're on YouTube in a pocket. You do not see enough pushback. I understand celebrity men are not going to do it, but if you look at the Black church, if you look at any sector of Black society where they don't have a reason to really tell women what they want to hear because they're not economically tied to them, they still tell women what the fuck they want to hear because that's what the fuck they know. So I want people to be very clear with me is when I'm talking about gynocracy, I'm talking about Black men's role as well as Black women's role, not just the gynocracy is just women and the problem is only women. Anyway, go ahead.
I understood that, Edward, but that's not what I was talking about. First of all, I was making a clear.
No, you were. I just want to be clear. People associate me with that.
A clear thing, because remember, and my father is one of them generations and all that. The reason why, because they didn't have the technology, these smartphones and all this thing has given us the ability. Because before this,
I won't let them get away with that. But go ahead.
No. I'm just being honest. Okay. I'm just telling you how it is. I mean, I see guys on a thing of beating down on the older generation. I said, but okay, are we going to beat down to the older generation to all the way down to when we got out of Reconstruction? Because that's what it is. Because they went along with it too. Because they had no other. They had.
And I number finished?
One. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hey, hold on real quick. Let me just cover this real quick. Nostalgic Sounds. I appreciate that $2 super chat, brother. He says y'all need to learn from the Haitian Revolution. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, and look at what Haiti is now. Go ahead.
No, well, we're not going to go into that with Haiti, but all I'm going to tell you is like this. I'm trying to keep us on topic because I think this is a thing that with these riots and everything like this, and we see that after 401 years, that'll be today. Will be, I mean, this year will make 401. There's nothing has changed in this country. Even white people are saying nothing has changed. So if nothing has changed, then we either we must change ourselves, which it seems to be a real difficulty, or we need to change, get ourselves out of this box and into a new box and a new environment, and that's what I'm saying. So I'll shut up. I'll
Uh,
get off the panel.
uh,
I
I
just
mean,
don't.
no, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, here's the thing. What I said before, I personally don't care if people want to stay here or go overseas. I think personally there should be a two group. I think we have a big enough population, even if you cut it down to 25% ADOS, that where people could do both, personally, and you could draw power from both. That's one thing I established first, because you're going to have people that they will get bogged down in the should you or shouldn't you. And I'm like, the folks that think you should. And then when you go over there, you do what you need to do. We'll support you in that endeavor. I'm not saying once you like do what you need to do, but there's investment, because here's the thing. Dudes can get to a mode where they say, fuck it, I'm leaving. And so if people already left first, is it in your best interest to support those people out the gate as an insurance policy? And then for people that want to stay, you don't know what's going to happen when you leave anyway. And let's say everything happens the way you want it to happen. America is still an economic power, and this is why people are still coming here. And you still want to be able to draw power from those people. I would say anybody wants to get, unless look, I'm a dual citizenship guy. If you talk about relinquishing your citizenship, even if you go overseas, I don't agree with that. That's dumb, because there's nothing you gain from
I,
doing that.
I never said that.
No, I know you didn't, but I've heard people say that. But what I'm
No,
saying
I'm
is,
just saying like this. I'm just saying like this, Edward. And I understand what you're saying about the dual policies, but I'm just saying until we start doing that, we're only stuck in this box. You understand? You
but there's
can't.
already communities that's in like Accra. There's 200,000 African Americans in
Yeah,
Accra.
and
So
and that's what I'm
Damn,
saying.
200,000? You sure?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and there's the brothers in Senegal. There's people in Tanzania. There's
Yeah, so
people
there's
in
black
Uganda,
community, ADOS communities, exactly.
and,
So
and
it's not like, go ahead.
right. But that's what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying. I'm not. Come on, my ancestors are buried here, but I'm damn sure not going to be putting myself in the ground here with some people who basically any minute anything can come up and
Okay, we might have lost you, brother.
Yeah, I mean, okay,
Hey, I
then
want
go
let
prove
me
me
let
wrong.
me just I just
Hold
want
on, go get the number. Go get the number. Because I'm telling you, I've looked at this, and I've heard it on BBC America in an interview with somebody down in Accra. It's 200,000, maybe 200,000 in Ghana in general, but I've heard that number by a couple of different sources. It's definitely
all
an established community. But go ahead.
yeah.
all I just
No, I'm just
It's
saying.
not 2,000. Let me go check it. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying like this. As long as we are sitting ducks here, and that's what it is, because until you exercise your options, you have no options. So you need to start looking, and that's the thing. When we try to leave with Marcus Garvey, what do? The white people said, "Oh no, you can't leave." If we're such bad people, or this and that, why is the white man intending on keeping us here? And every time we try to say that we want to leave, they tell us, no, you don't want to go there because this is the best place for you. I'm sorry. I don't
Okay, they trying to say 5,000, but whatever. I'll get them. I
I
looked at
don't care
Google.
if it's
So
100. There's 100 people that got out of this hellhole, got out of the belly of the beast, Edward. And and if they can find happiness over someplace else. Even there's a guy in Japan who's over there, a bunch of black people in Japan saying they never coming back to America.
Well,
They said they rather take their chances in Japan with the Japanese than they would with the Americans.
but nobody disagrees
let
that
me let
all
me
black.
just let me just interject real second because we got off topic of what we originally was talking about as far as the culture and the education. I just wanted to just say this to you, brothers. Okay, culture has to do with the achievements of a race. What our culture is right now in 2020 was not what our culture was in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when we had Nat Turners, when we had Huey Newtons, when we had Garveys and what you brothers is talking about. Our culture has been guided through propaganda of what it is now through rap music, through the infiltration of our communities, our women. You look at TV now, they're trying to make black women marry white men to extend their race and turn them into a gray race and all of that bull crap. If you look at our achievements that we achieved as black people, that started with education. That started with fighting. We didn't invent what you see through a traffic light by not having education, brother. Before we had culture, before like Frederick Douglass didn't get where he was by not having an education. John Hanson on the back of a $2 bill didn't get somewhere from our culture. It was education. He learned something and he put himself in that damn position. So you can't hold on. You can't hold on. I listen to you, bro. You dominate the conversation. Let other people talk. At the end of the day, bro, you need both. I agree with you. I'm not your enemy. I'm just simply saying you can't have a culture without education because what will the people be? They'll be dumb. So you got to have sense to what you're doing. Gaddafi couldn't build what he built. Garvey couldn't do what he did. Noble Drew Ali couldn't do what he did if he didn't have an education. You got to have education to instill in your people. What are your people going to follow without an education? Yeah. What job you go work on? What school you go to that don't give you an education, bro? I'm just making a point.
Edward, let him finish, and then you finish.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I ask black women something simple all the time, and this I say, and I'm not calling you a woman, but I say, who do you choose the father of your children? I swear to God, ADO's women always answer it the same way, and they say no. Every other group of women, even black, answers it right but them. And I say that to highlight a fundamental misunderstanding of a certain concept. And this is actually great because this is where the problem is. I did not say that somebody could be dumb. You know, a culture is not the work that it took to do and achieve. It's like saying you have to have a certain culture to win a championship. The championship is reflective of the culture, but it's not. It is not the culture. It's any kind of achievement, whether it's education. The problem is you trying to say that education cannot usurp a culture. You cannot defeat you cannot use education at a collective at the macro level to defeat a culture. That's why you have to break people. That's why you have to break people down, usually by violence or other means at their base level to make them a blank slate, to then input the education. This is why it's important for you to raise children properly versus educating them later on when they were miseducated in the first place. Because once that culture sets in, it's almost like trying to fix an addiction. This is why you can't just educate people out of religion. This is why I argue with Elliot that that's even a waste of time. Because at that point, they're already ingrained. What you're making it seem like I'm saying that you could be a blank slate and give them culture and then not give them education. I said culture comes before education. That's what I'm saying.
You could raise a child in the right way and they still turn out bad. That's a gamble when you have a child. Culture.
That's a single mother argument.
You're blaming. But hold on. You're putting everything. Hold on, brother. You're putting everything on culture. But some people. Now let me make my point. You're putting everything saying that it's culture and culture starts before education. Well, you teach a kid how to walk and how to speak before you teach them culture. On top of that, you can't put culture on everything for somebody making a bad decision. If somebody goes out and blows somebody's brains, that's not culture. That's that nigga being dumb and doing something wrong. So everything, yes, you can. Hold on. Everything's not on culture is all I'm saying. Some people just make bad decisions.
If you teach your child that killing somebody is wrong or doing something, and you show that child at a young age, because when I did something wrong, I got my ass beat. And I learned quite young that If you don't want those there are consequences. The problem is we have a culture, and I say culture again, of what we have: single mothers who are raising these kids without any consequences. And then when something happens to them, they ready to scream and say, "Oh no, look at the system! The system let my child down." No, you let your child down because you didn't educate him at home first with culture. Then when he go, because we are allowing the Prussian school system to actually educate our children about what is right or wrong. No, you learn that at home. I'm sorry.
And,
That's that, and that is not what you're talking about. Edwards is right. You're trying to now say that we're trying to say culture overrides education. No, we're saying culture first, and then education rides on top of that. And that's what I'm saying.
So, bro,
Now,
yeah,
did
okay,
your mother
hold
and
on, real quick,
dad?
Edward. Hold on. Let me just say this real quick. Brother Nostalgic Sounds, super chat again. Brother, after this type in Haitian Revolution 1804 in YouTube, it's with Tariq Nasheed at Edward. That is a different subject. Stop. Okay.
yeah.
Let's
Well,
go.
well, the
So,
thing,
brother, hold on. Your mother raised you right, right? The brother that just got done speaking. Your mother raised you right, right? Yes or no? She raised you
Yeah,
right, correct?
and my
Okay.
father too.
So as you grew up, did
Yes in
you
the
not?
building.
Did you? Okay. Now, as you grew up, did you make wrong mistakes and bad mistakes? And if you did, before you answer that, and if you did, were they your decisions or were they cultural decisions?
First of all, the we are, it's personal responsibility. That's what you're talking about. And but I had the basic training from home to override. There's plenty of guys on my block. I can tell you this that never, who didn't make it, who didn't make it. They fell victim to that. But I also looked at where they was raised at, and how their background was, and that's what
So,
happened. I We all make mistakes, but we don't make the mistakes like, I don't go in a store and rob a store. I don't go and sell dope. I went to school. I did all the
all right.
stuff. See,
So then where do
you're
we draw the
forgetting.
line?
Wait,
So
you're
where do we draw the
forgetting.
line between
uh,
cultural mistakes and just bad
No,
decisions?
because
Where is
see,
that line drawn?
no, see, that's you're making you're
I love
talking
it.
apples and oranges. That's not a cultural mistake. What are you talking about? We're talking about the culture is the actual software that runs on top of the education, not a cultural mistake. No. What you're talking about is it's wrong. I'm sorry. That
You
Well,
guys
I
just
mean,
have
gave
a
you guys
even,
you
even,
need to take some classes
he's stupid.
on really, because I'm sorry, what you're saying is not correct.
I,
I can take you to the Amazon jungle, where people don't have education but they have culture, and they know what not to do and what's right
bro,
to
that
do.
doesn't
Okay,
sound. You sound
hold on
crazy.
right
How
quick,
can you
brother. Let
live in
me
the
not
jungle
really
and not
let me
have
true.
interject real
education on
quick.
how to
Hold
live
on,
in the
fellas.
jungle,
Hold on,
bro?
fellas.
You sound
My
But
crazy.
bad.
but
Hold
no,
on, Elliot.
I'm
because I want to
okay.
jump in this. Hold
Wait,
on.
wait,
You
wait,
got
wait.
it.
Hold
You
on,
Time
Elliot.
out,
good.
Hold on.
time
Let
You
me
out,
let me
time
good.
say
out.
this real quick. Let me
I
cut in.
didn't call you crazy.
Hold on.
Please don't
Hold
do
on.
that to me.
Hey
Don't
guys,
call me
let me
crazy.
cut in real quick, guys. Let me cut in real quick and say this. My brother Brazil, yes, just super chatted me. What's up? What's up? Yes, Jonas. Character and law determines culture, and knowledge follows that. Wow, this is
So
back.
yes. Well. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. And shout out to Yusef too. He's another brother in Brazil. The thing. This is the problem with I just mentioned it, and I didn't really throw the pro blacks in there. I purposely did not do that, but this is why I talked about the church and a lot of other groups like the Pan Africans, because this is the thing that either people know and deliberately won't do. Education is this. We've been focused on education for 50 years. Mufasa. We've educated our girls. Our girls are supposedly the most educated group in America. What in the black community do you see that's reflective of that investment in education? Now, here's the thing. I could be an asshole and say, well, the problem is education. But Dr. Claude Anderson said it great. He said the culture that we have informs the education we get. So what happens is in the American school system, let's fuck the black people for a second, and let's look at just America as a whole. If you look at America versus Europe, and we're not saying Europe does better, but Europe has a culture of trade jobs, of apprenticeship, and their universities reflect that. Their universities are not based on the team you're in, it's based on getting that information, and because they still make shit. We don't have that culture in America. We have a culture of investing all this upfront money that, by the way, years ago we did not do because our parents did not have to do that shit. And basically, you're supposed to get a job to the point where even when you're in school, high school, if you're somebody that wants to go to the military, they won't do it with the military because the military get in their ass. But if you want to get a trade, you're seen as not as smart. This is why, even though to drive a truck or even to be an auto mechanic or an engineer, like even though it's not being an engineer as far as a degree, if you're a mechanic, you get what I'm saying? You know, it takes information, knowledge to do that, to work with wood, to be plumbing. But you got, for instance, our women that think they smart because they got a psychology degree. My point is, these are different cultures that inform even how you educate. And the problem is, take credit, for example. We can both have the same amount of education, but if I'm somebody that is cultured more around business and mercantilism, I'm going to see credit in a different way than somebody that is cultured in consumerism, even if we have the same education on the same topic. So what you have to understand is when we say things are an operating system, it is the thing. You said it yourself. You said, what is the difference between, where is the line between the actions that you take and what you were taught?
That's not what I said.
That is not educate. You said, because you just did. You said,
I said,
yes,
I said, where do we draw the line between cultural education and bad decisions? That's what I said.
Right.
Well, you guys were giving a dissertation. That's an oxymoron. Because, for instance, if you're in when you're in Wall, if you're a banker, you could be a banker that has a culture of greed, or you could be a banker that's about basically, you know, keeping the system as is. The difference is not education. The difference is culture. When people do bad things, look, you talk about one-off decisions, but we know if you look at the statistics and look at black people, black men that do crime, or people that do crime in general, we know they come from a certain type of home. So at the macro level, that's not a bad decision. That is a matter of how they were cultured that led to those decisions in the first place. And the problem is, you sound like you try to discount culture and minimize it, which is important. Because this is what a lot of pro-blacks do, and this is why a lot of pro-blacks don't can never. This is like a fundamental issue I have that's different between me and pro-black, is they don't understand this point. They think it's black people are educated. What in like the drug shit in the 80s? What in what you're saying says that after all this time, black people are not educated? Black people are more educated now than they were in Reconstruction.
Okay,
way more as a group.
Let me interject, because I have a real world model that everybody knows. Well, everybody who's been into the military. The military, when you go into the induction center, you go up for a physical, and then you take this thing called the YABS Fab, for anybody who knows. And what they do is within that 8 weeks, they change your culture. They change your mindset. They change your behavioral fundamental beliefs, and saying this is what you will do. And then they do that after basic training and advanced training. Then they take you to schools to get your specialty. So the military does the first thing is break you down and re-educate you, and
but
then
they educate you too. I'm an ex-marine, bro. They educate you too. They teach you how to break down a rifle. They teach you how to wear your unit. They teach you the history. I was in the Marine Corps, bro.
Can I finish my point?
But that wasn't a
They
true
also
statement.
They also teach you the fundamentals, because a lot of people, when I was in the military, didn't know basic hygiene, didn't know basic things like that. And you telling me as a Marine, you didn't have people like that in your thing?
Absolutely, but it still goes to education. You're making my point.
Of culture. No, you're making my point.
Brushing your teeth ain't culture, bro.
See,
That's
you won't even let me finish my thing. I didn't interrupt you. I wait. I'm just telling you. I'm giving you a real world example of how the U.S. military changes individuals' culture, and then educates them. And you can't deny that, because what was your MOS when you was in the Marines?
I was administration. I was an S1 and an S3. But
What was
all
your
I was
MOS?
S1
I can't
administration.
hear.
Yeah, administration.
Okay, administration. So what did they do? Did they give you administration courses first about how to do the triple kits and the
No,
NSN? No,
no.
no, they did you the basic training first. That's why they called it basic training, because they try to bring everybody up to the same cultural level. That's all I'm trying to say.
And here's
But
another
let me
thing
just
that just
hold on, Edward, hold on. But see, brother, all I'm saying is you said that they do all of this and then they take you to your MOS school. When you first come into the military, they teach you how to shoot. They teach you how to put on your uniform. They teach you and educate you on how to polish your boots, how to wear your uniform, how to make a bed, how to go to the gas chamber. They teach you how to swim. All of that is evolved around education. Listen, we're all saying the same thing, and we're spending. Listen, hold on, bro. We're spending unnecessary time on two things that are intertwined together. You can't have culture without education. You can't have education without culture. Hold on, let me make a point. How did we advance as black people from the 70s to now without education?
No,
Our culture. Hold on, I'm making a point. But I'm just making a point.
Let them finish. Let them finish.
Our culture changed through education. How do we got rights when we didn't have rights before? We drunk at two different water fountains. That had nothing to do with culture. That was society. We had to change that through education and going in laws and making rights for us that we're living on now. I'm just making a point. You can't. Our culture has changed from education.
The problem is, Mufasa, and this is the issue a lot of pro-blacks have. You don't know how to separate it, and that's an issue. Because really, I don't ever hear y'all talk about culture, but y'all always talk about education. So when you say it's intertwined, you really saying culture is education, which here's the truth about the military. I wasn't in the military, but based on what y'all talk about, because I know about basic, yes, they can use education as an indoctrinating mechanism. Sure. And every group that's true for basketball. That's true for anything. Whenever you're trying to bring a group together, they do that in the police academy. They do all of it. Let's fuck that. Let's talk about the police academy for a second. The police academy teaches you the same shit, not as efficient as the military, but the police academy role is to really teach you how to do shit, but it's really to indoctrinate you into the fraternal order of the police. It is to separate you. You are no longer a civilian. You are a cop. And that's what the military does as well. Because so the point is, what you're not understanding is teaching tools that are really culture designed, an educational tool that is really designed to culturally indoctrinate you. And this is why, for instance, when you look at why black men don't tend to work together when it comes to business like other groups, that has nothing to do with black men are not educated. I can prove it, because when you look at how gangbangers operate and you look at how motherfuckers operate to sell dope, if you look at black people that operate and how they play in sports, things that are not necessarily educated in nature, hell, look at black people in prison, where there ain't no education in how to do that. They instantly know how to do that because the priority changes. Culture is about priorities, and the problem is black people do not have the cultural priorities that we need. This is why you talked about how can we do this back in the past. The culture was informed by you based on a human element to survive. Jim Crow, all these things, external forces informed our culture and the education as to where we needed to aim. Like think about it. Think of education as like a homing mechanism to tell you where to point, and think of culture as like the thrust. The problem is there are elements where you do need to separate it, because black people been talking about education. Nigga, I hear every politician. The first thing these motherfucking, I ain't saying you a Democrat. These fucking Democrats want to say, these black Democrats, is you need to be educated. I'm like, so you fucking tell it, what the fuck does that mean? And the reason why you never ever hear them talk, you don't ever hear any black person talk about culture. Ever in any area of activity, anybody of significance. That is by design. You don't even see culture entered into the debate. That is by design. Just like how you till recently never saw economics entered into the debate, or a nigga always dying when he starts to bring economics into the debate.
Hey,
that
Edward,
is by
Edward,
design.
hold on for a minute, brother. Hold that thought for a minute. Brazil, yes, says when kingdoms take over, they remove your knowledge first and give you culture first.
This is why they kill the men and they kill the men and get the women and children because they know they infuse culture. Go ahead.
Of course. And then my brother Nostalgia Sounds once again with the $5 super chat says culture is environment. The first thing you do when you go to the military is leave your neighborhood.
Exactly.
That's a soft shoe way, absolutely. And here's the thing. I'm not look, if somebody wants to focus on education, I mean, think about it. With Dr. Clark, people would think what Dr. Clark Anderson talks about is education. It's really not, it is, but it's really not about financial education. It's about Black people need to change and understand the economics need to be the foundation of our culture, not politics, not the other way we've been doing it. Because education is literally the minimum most important. Because if you have the right culture, this is why immigrants can come over. And I know the smart immigrants get over here, but this is why motherfuckers come over here, illegal immigrant Mexicans. So you can't say they coming here because they rich and somehow they work together and then they passes. Because they have a culture that's different from ours. For instance, you look at these Hispanics. Hispanics will live, motherfuckers will be laughing at them tall Hispanics drive together in the same shit or all of them live together. What they won't tell you is the bitches are working in McDonald's, the dudes are working in construction, and then before you know, they're educating themselves based on having a culture of pooling their money on how to do more with certifications on constructions. The females are still working and being humble, not fucking competing with the men. And then next thing you know, they buying houses and shit. Then what happens? Their culture is really centered around their Spanish language, which is another reason why we were given English language. You know, this is why Elliot's talking about you need to leave, because really America is a center of the matrix culture bubble. I think from a practicality standpoint, you know, some people can do that, but everybody's not going to do that in general. So you still have to get energy from doing that. But my point is to not say education is not important. If you prioritize education more, then so be it. What I'm telling you though is as a group, I'm gonna say this and I'm done. As a group, as Black people, as a group, we need to separate culture, education, understand. Just like how anybody that studies economics understands that one of the first things you learn is the difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics. Because if you talk of everything from a microeconomic perspective, you miss things. Same thing on macroeconomics perspective, you miss things.
All right.
Anyway,
I got a proposal for the group. Okay. Since we have two different camps and I'm in one camp and I say we got to build out of America and do this. Let's do this. You build in Montana or wherever you want to build, and I'll build in some place like maybe Latin America or Africa. And then what we'll do is we'll compare notes and see who's the more successful, who's the more have greater outthink, because that's what a scientist does. He experiments, he records, and see which one is the better outcome. And I'll know which is the one better outcome, because I know what I think I know based on my thinking of culture, and you can have it based on what you think, and that's the only way we're gonna see. And that's all
I agree with building both here and abroad. I'm not saying stay in America. I'm not saying that, and I never said that. We were just talking about, can we build Black Wall Street and what we need. I agree with everything that y'all are saying, but I just think that it starts with education too. Because a lot of people that I see, you know, they do a lot of things because they're unlearned or they don't have the knowledge on it. And just giving somebody a little bit of knowledge on something in conjunction with culture. But I'm saying giving them a little knowledge can help change their life. I mean, it could be teaching them how to build something. It could be showing them, hey, go to this website to learn this.
Let them finish, brother. Let them finish.
I'm not missing your point. I just agree with your point, brother. All I'm just saying is, listen, if you start your own culture and build in Brazil, wherever you want, what you gonna have to do to the people? You're gonna have to teach them something. So at the end of the day, what we're saying is really the same. So your argument is really vain, bro, because you can't. It's just like if you don't know how to
representing my argument. That's not what my argument.
Disagree with your argument. I'm not misrepresenting it.
You said I have to teach them something. I say I'll take my group of individuals with with what we understand as culture and build our Black Wall Street, and you build it with what you understand, what your thing is, and
Uh,
we'll see which is. No, I never said no. You're making words. I never said that. Oh, I'm not going to teach these people. These people have the same vision as I do, a vision of technology, a vision of what I think of what
Correct.
we
And
need
I
to
have
do
that
to make
same
a black.
vision too,
Wait,
brother.
wait,
I'm
but
not
but
disagreeing with you. I'm
but you
just
can't
simply,
have it both ways. You
I'm
gotta
just
let me
simply,
finish. You
you didn't
can't
let me
have
finish.
it because you interrupted me. I'm telling you, you can't have it both ways, and that's the thing. The pro-blacks think that you can have it both ways. You can't. I'm sorry.
well, well,
You
Elliot. Well, one
can't.
thing I want to add into this too is because I hear in the comments
I think Edward dropped out.
Yeah.
Hey, brothers, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the show.
is that
Hold on,
Uh,
yeah,
Edward.
it
uh,
is,
Edward,
and this
hold on,
show is
brother.
lit.
Yeah, hold on, quick. We're gonna go
Yeah,
ahead
it
and wrap
was.
up
It
the show,
was.
man. I want you
Okay,
guys to all say your closing thoughts, and I end up with my closing thought. Go
okay.
ahead,
yeah,
Edward.
absolutely,
I
Okay.
want
absolutely.
I
to go
just
So
want to
last. I
say
want to go
thank
last,
you.
Aaron.
yeah,
I
and
Before
this
just
you.
this is
want
a
to
good
say
wrap up.
thank
So
you.
here,
Wait. I just
yeah,
want this is
yeah.
Black.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you to everybody. I know that it can be contentious, but I'm only here voicing my opinion as what they call an educated lame. Basically, and that's all. No offense to anyone, and thank you, Black Men Travel. For giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah,
Shalom,
no,
brother.
No problem, brother.
absolutely, and this is an important. See, some people think this is not an important argument. I think this is outside the gynocracy argument. This is the argument. This is the thing as to why motherfuckers keep spinning their wheels as a group, and then motherfuckers don't get nowhere. This right here, and so this is very important. So I'm glad it aimed at this because if you don't get this right, all of this shit about what somebody gonna do, even if they start to do it, it's not going. It's not. It's really gonna. It's doomed to fail from the start. And that's important. You decide to do this in the United States or do this overseas. Now, with that being said, when you, let me be very clear. Black people do not spend with themselves with each other the least and spend with other groups, aka the white ISIS colder. That is not an education problem. I could get a whole bunch of black women that's in the hair care industry right now, and they will tell you it is not because other black women don't know as to going to get their shit done in black female owned salons or getting weave from black women. It is not an education issue when an Asian in multiple cities whoop your ass, and then you still the next couple of days go and fucking get that damn shit. Even when it comes to what's called on here before was talking about getting a gun. Black men getting a gun, and why is it that we march, forgive, protest, and then we forget about it? That is not an education issue. That is a cultural issue. And the reality is you have to know the difference because you can't. The thing about it is black people love to try to talk about what they not educated. And I'm not. This ain't aimed at you, Mufasa. But I was when I was younger. And I ain't saying I'm older than you. I'm just saying I used to think that shit too, though. And I learned that when I knew motherfuckers knew better, I knew they knew better, and I knew why they knew better. And it wasn't alcohol, it wasn't sex, it wasn't all that. They still did the same shit. They had no addictive qualities to it. And then that's when I realized, oh, this is what the fuck you want to do because it's something deeper than just them knowing. It's something deeper than just them knowing what to do. It's something about the why they don't have the will to do it. And then when you start to see why Asians have their kids in a fucking register, yeah, it's because they working and they want their kid working in education too. But if you notice how they always at that fucking register too, it's because they're indoctrinating. And I want people to walk away from this to disagree with me, understanding culture is okay. Say education is education, but you have to indoctrinate people too. Now there are some educational tools to do that because usually the best way to indoctrinate somebody is to tell somebody something they don't know. Think about religion. Technically, are the people really being educated in the black church? Hell the fuck no. They're taking this thing called the Bible, which I'm not saying doesn't have any value to it. It does. It has a lot of financial education value, by the way. and they're saying, God told me this, or I learned this, that is the supposed word of God, even though King James was an asshole and rewrote it and kept books out of it, right? Even though technically the Christianity came from Ethiopia, right? But whatever. And God told me this, and because of that, you know, they look at him as a leader. That is indoctrination. You see the same thing with Scientology. Them motherfuckers are some of the dumb Scientologists know the least about the world outside how to read and how to count. They are the least educated, but they move as a unit and are able to do things that other groups have not been able to do. You know why? Because they have a culture of indoctrination. So think of culture as an indoctrination mechanism, and the education is where to aim people at. That might be easier to understand the different nuances in it. But this is the debate I am happy to have.
What's your closing thoughts, brother?
That is my closing. That is my, yeah. Edward Anderson is my channel. Google, YouTube, you'll get me. I talk about real shit. And yeah, that's my closing statement. Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, real quick, let me jump in. This is Mufasa. So if you notice, there's two of me on the bottom. I have not been in this conversation for like the last 45 minutes, Edward. You've been addressing me, but I have not been in this conversation, bro. So I think you were talking to someone else. He never corrected you.
Okay, I think he was talking to the other one, Black Torch.
Okay, you know what? Yeah, my bad. And you know what? To be honest, and be honest with you, I know I was like, damn, Mufasa don't usually come with this type of fucking.
You cutting out, Edward. Go ahead, Mufasa.
Yeah, but no, yeah, we gotta talk though.
But I didn't know. I'm not paying attention.
Nah, everybody, like when I come on here, especially because I usually got the red, black, and green on my name, and I'm getting stereotyped. I realize people are stereotyping me. They think I'm some type of, you know, people think they know what I'm gonna say. Nobody asks me what I'm gonna say. You know what I mean? But as far as my closing thoughts, right? I think we've been discussing, or you guys, I should say, have been discussing this whole thing. We never define culture because people mean different things by that. But to me, I define culture as the consistent actions of a group, right? And those actions, whatever your actions are, they're going to lend toward the ends that the people who run your society want. So when we say education, education is a general term. Like tying your shoes is education. Every sector of society requires education. So everybody needs that. But what is the purpose that you're being educated for? These are things that have to be programmed and laid out. And you have to have land by which you determine what the people on that land are going to be educated for and what they're going to do, what the culture is going to be, right? And that's something that we do not have. Now, people talk about what Black people do. Black people have been programmed by another group of people because they run the land that we're on. They set up the laws. They set up everything. So that's the purpose of me saying we need to go somewhere else where we have our own land and we set up our own laws and we write the rules of our own game. Because if you're educated in a system that was designed to exploit you as a human resource, which is why we're brought here and which is our main function now, you're going to end up acting in ways that support that programming. So Black people out there, or Black men, we need to get our own land and set up our own rules. And we need to program our people to do things that empower us as a group, not be exploited by another group or another country. And that's my thoughts, bro.
Well, brother, I 100% agree with you. I think Elliot might have dropped off. I know he wanted the last word, but we're gonna go ahead and end the show. I appreciate everybody coming on. You guys get a chance, check out blackmentravels.com. I appreciate all the support with the super chats. Okay, here we go with Elliot. And I'm gonna let him say his last thought. Mufasa, thank you for coming on the show. Edward, thank you for coming on the show. Black Torch, thank you for coming on the show as well. And for my final thing, I'm gonna say that I do agree with both parties. I do believe that you have to build, you know, overseas and in the States. In my opinion, I believe both can be utilized to gain leverage against, you know, the dominant society. So, for me personally, I'd rather build overseas, mainly possibly South America or the Caribbean. That's just my take on it. Go ahead, Elliot. Let me add you back to the screen.
Yeah, the only thing I just wanted to say, thank all of the brothers. I value all of y'all opinions, all of your learned knowledge and studying. But just to answer the question to the topic of it, yes, we can build Black Wall Street. Like I stated in my opening statements, they can bomb whatever building they want, but we could build on land and we could build abroad and they can't bomb that. We just got to move smarter, think smarter, and do things better. Yes, our culture may be messed up, but if we re-educate ourselves and do what's right and use the proper things that have already been allotted to us, I think we could bring about a change that this world has never seen. It's in us. It's coded to our DNA. We just got to let it out. The power's with the people. It's always been with the people, and it will never leave the people. The people just got to tap into that power. So I'm going to close with that. Power to the people, man, always. And I'm not a pro-black person or anything like that. I just love my people, and I love all people. But this war, this fight is real. On a mental, financial, spiritual, any other level you want, a cultural, whatever level you want to throw in there, this fight is real. And your eyes don't lie to you. So wake up and let's start fighting back. And that's it, Aaron. Thank you for allowing me to come on here, Black Man Travels, man. Thank you, brother. And I look forward to building with y'all brothers.
For sure. All right, guys. That's it, man. We're going to have to do a part 2 of this. But yeah, man.
I would love to. I would love to debate Edward, too.
Yeah, man. Edward, you know, he's going to try to dominate that conversation with his thoughts. But, you know, the funny thing is, brother, that everybody is right. You know what I'm saying? So it's just
that's
like,
what I was saying, Aaron.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying, bro.
Everybody's right. You know, you can't just do, I mean, they have multiple strategies against us. So we're going to have to use multiple strategies against them, you know?
Exactly.
And
See,
as far as the education and culture, I mean, we need both. So, you know.
So that's what I'm saying. So like to build, brother, with the topic of what you're saying is, okay, if Edward is strong here, educate where your strength is. If I'm strong in finances, educate there. If master teacher is strong there, educate. Start giving what you knowing. Stop trying to monetize everything. Farrakhan says something very powerful. If you make it about the people, you'll always be taken care of. And I believe that because somebody will always look out for you because you blessed their life with something that they didn't know. You can't empower somebody with just culture. You can empower them with culture and education. You can empower them with money. You can empower them with a lot of things. We are attacked on all fronts, like you said. And I made the point that you agree with. We the only people without any military or artillery. We got to have all of that too. This ain't just one thing of just culture. Bro, we attack from all angles. We got to, like you said, fight back from all angles. So I don't understand why they gave whole dissertations on us all being right. Because I agree with the brothers. But at the end of the day, man, this fight is real, bro. This fight, we need hood niggas. We need educated niggas. We need Harvard niggas. We need doctors, lawyers. We need these lawyers to start making UN cases. We need them to come and educate people on how to sue. Their education can be a blessing to people that got that fight. It ain't for everybody. These words ain't for everybody, but it's for the elect. It's for the elite because the strong will inherit this earth. The weak, I don't got time for the coons. I don't got time for them. I just want the strong-minded brothers, the brothers that see. Blessed are your eyes that they see. Blessed are your ears that they hear. Many have wanted to see what you see, but have not. And wanted to hear what you hear, but hear not. That's powerful, man. We got to wake up. Like I listen to brothers like Yes Jonas. I listen to O'Shea. I listen to you. You brothers are on to something. This movement started way before Charles Tyler. But it's relevant in our time because guess what? The things we read about or don't believe, we're going to see in our time. How many brothers went to school thinking that they're going to ever see a black president? Not many, but we seen it. So what the hell else we going to see? You're already seeing robots. You're going to see RoboCops. You're going to see Terminator-like crap. They mixing iron with clay. Those are facts. I ain't making that up. They making I Am Legend, iRobot, Gemini Man, because they already got that. So we got to prepare. I agree with the brother with technology. I said systems is what we need and what we lack. I agree with everything they saying. So what is the argument? Where do we go from here? What are you doing in the community? I gave you my website. I gave you my website so you can actually see I do this. I don't talk about this. I sue these people. I fight these people, bro. So we got to fight, man. We're in a war right now. But I'm going to close out, bro. But thank you, man, so much.
Yeah, like I said, I agree with everything you're saying, brother. And like I said, we're going to have to definitely do a part 2 of this. I'm going to hit you up, man. I got your information. See if you want to come back on, brothers. So,
Definitely.
brothers, I appreciate y'all coming on, man. And we're going to be on out this thing. Peace, brothers.
Peace.